Chapter 42. Darkness of the night. Lin Feng had released his dark spirit, and he was not aware of how sinister he looked at that moment. He was calm and calculating, staring with eyes filled with no emotion. The practitioner who fired the arrow was stunned at such a terrifying gaze. Lin Feng seemed calm and at the same time murderous. Under such a situation, how was it possible to be so calm? Lin Feng took a step forward and used moonlight feather agility. Lin Feng was instantly in front of a group of people, making them unable to use their bows at such a close distance. The long sword as it sliced through the air made a terrible wailing noise. Lin Feng was thrusting his sword towards them, and each strike was more precise than the last. With every movement he was dodging an attack and blocking another with his sword. Everyone was furious. He was not only dodging their attack calmly, but he had also killed so many of them already. Now they could not use their bows, they were slowly being pushed back. "Release your spirits and kill him," shouted Na Lanhai furiously, but he could not help but subconsciously retreat. As Lin Feng had arrived right in front of them, he was the most terrified of all. When he looked into Lin Feng's eyes, he could see overwhelming murderous intent, but even more terrifying was how calm and composed he was. Na Lanhai's heart was pounding. His entire body was shaking with fear. When everyone heard Na Lanhai, they all moved forwards and released their spirits. The night was exceptionally dark tonight, but releasing that many spirits immediately lit the area with prismatic light. An assassin with a vine spirit had managed to sneak behind Lin Feng. That spirit gave its cultivator a body that was flexible and strong. When the strength of its cultivator had become high enough, he could use his vine spirit to constrict enemies. The cultivator's body would become like a vine. It would be almost boneless and was able to change forms. He was surrounded by vines that were spreading and extending throughout the atmosphere. It didn't seem to follow a precise trajectory, but was wild and untamed. When the cultivator saw that his hand was almost upon Lin Feng, a hideous grin appeared on his face. Immediately after, when the assassin seemed to be so proud of himself, a silver light appeared in the air and pierced him in the eye and through the back of his skull. His body was supported by the sword, which simply tilted downwards, and the assassin's head slid down the sword until it was completely removed. The sword strike was so precise, so quick and so flawless that it was scary. There was not a single ounce of wasted energy or unnecessary movement. He had killed that cultivator in a single strike in such a terrifying way. The scariest part was that Lin Feng still remained calm as he watched the impaled head slide off his sword. Lin Feng didn't stop and instead used this to his advantage to attack. Lin Feng's sword was streaking across the night sky like a meteor. Another stream of blood splashed in the air. Another person fell down dead. As the moonlight pierced the clouds and the dark night was illuminated, it seemed like a world of blood. These cultivators were all at the 8th and 9th chi layers. Each time Lin Feng attacked, it was almost impossible for them to dodge a single strike. Lin Feng's speed and accuracy were beyond perfect. They could do nothing to resist such a monster. A heavy meteor-like object was crashing through the air towards Lin Feng's head. If he allowed himself to be hit, he might not die, but he would be unable to win this fight and would be killed because of that. His life was balancing on a thin line. "You think I will let you dodge?" At the moment when Lin Feng was attempting to dodge, a spear was piercing through the air and blocking his escape. The spear was amazingly powerful. He was being attacked from the front and the rear simultaneously. This was a strategy developed through battle and targeting Lin Feng's certain death. "Die!" Lin Feng shouted loudly. Then he threw his long sword with incredible speed. The sword pierced through the air and finally plummeted deep into the spear, wielding opponent's chest. The assassin stood there with disbelieving eyes as he looked down to see the sword piercing through his chest. He felt like it must be a nightmare. This could not possibly be reality. He had never thought that Lin Feng would dare to dispose of weapon and use it to kill one of the attackers. Lin Feng was at the 9th chi layer and was much stronger than each of them. However, he was clearly outnumbered by a great deal. Only one of them needed to reach Lin Feng and he would be severely injured. These injuries could even cost Lin Feng's life. Lin Feng should be vigilant and very defensive. However, he had just risked his life on that last gamble. Lin Feng had thrown away his sword for the sake of killing another one of the group. It was terrifying to witness such disregard for his own life, with such a calm and calculating face. The one with the sword deep in his chest was just staring at Lin Feng. These were his last moments and he wanted to watch how Lin Feng was going to die as the meteor crashed into his head. Swish, silence filled the atmosphere. Lin Feng was holding a luminous sword. The meteor still hadn't reached its destination. Instead, the cultivator with the meteor spirit, his head had been sent flying in the air, completely removed from his body. Lin Feng was using his soft sword and at this moment he was drenched in blood. This is my fate. His opponent closed his eyes and his body collapsed onto the ground with a loud crash. The head of the one who had been beheaded a moment before fell down from the air onto the ground. Everyone looked on, frozen as if time had just stopped. They were asking themselves who could have survived that last sword strike. Sword unsheathing. At the moment when the sword was unsheathed, the opponent's head was sent flying. How could cultivators of the 9th chi layer compete with a strength and power such as that produced by the sword unsheathing skill? The opponents had forgotten to attack, but Lin Feng didn't forget. Flashes of light one after the other appeared as Lin Feng slashed through the air. Each light was accompanied by a stream of blood. The current scenery was a landscape of blood. Each strike with his sword reached its target. Not a single movement was wasted. Each strike was precise and deadly. At that moment Lin Feng had forgot the meaning of mercy. Apart from being calm, as he bathed in this world of blood and took life after life, he could only feel indifferent. Na Lan Hai looked at each corpse as it fell to the ground. Body after body was falling to the ground in a rain of blood. He was shaking and his mind had wanted to run but his legs were too weak. Each body represented a cultivator above the 8 chi layer. And there was now dozens of those bodies scattered on the ground. They represented the strong potential in Yangzhou City, and particularly in the clan which controlled the city. At that moment, they were all lying dead on the ground and had fallen as easily as straw. They had all been killed one after the other by Lin Feng. All these people were supporters of Na Lan Hai, and had contributed to his success. Lin Feng had killed so much talent belonging to his clan. It was a devastating blow. What was it that made Lin Feng's sword so deadly? What was it in Lin Feng's eyes that scared Na Lan Hai so much? Was it because he looked so calm? It looked like Lin Feng was used to slaughtering people as if they were cattle. The whistling sound of his sword cutting through the air was getting more and more intense to the point that with each whistle it seemed like the rain had stopped making sounds. The entire atmosphere was filled with the sword qi, and there was no room for anything else. The extremely strong qi was also getting more and more powerful with each strike. Run! Na Lan Hai, who was scared beyond belief, had somehow come back into reality. Na Lan Hai had only one thought. Get him and his clan as far away from that demon as possible. Without the least bit of hesitation, Na Lan Hai turned around and started running. You want to leave now? Don't you think it's a bit too late? Said a cold voice that seemed like the darkness itself speaking. The sound of the sword attacking suddenly stopped. Only the sound of Lin Feng's steps on the wet ground could still be heard. Splash, splash, splash. Na Lan Hai stopped walking and turned around. He was staring face to face with Lin Feng. His face was twisted and ugly. He was trying to smile but tears rolled down his cheeks and whimpers escaped his mouth. Lin Feng, you know that this has nothing to do with me. It was the young miss who ordered us to kill you. I only acted under orders as it is my duty, nothing more. I know, said Lin Feng while nodding, which made Na Lan Hai suddenly regain hope. That is why I must put the dog out of its misery, otherwise it will continue to be forced to do these things by its master. Immediately after, Na Lan Hai saw a bright silver light flash through the air and it was the last thing he saw. His head had been cleanly removed from his body. When Lin Feng saw Na Lan Hai collapse, he remained expressionless. He turned around and saw the piles of corpses. There were dozens upon dozens of corpses lying on the ground. The soil had been dyed red with the blood spilt. He did not have time to stop. Instead he started walking into the distance. Na Lan Feng. A low voice echoed through the darkness of the night, and it seemed like the darkness was moving. Lin Feng didn't know how long he had been walking. He arrived in a territory under nobody's control. He sat in meditation on the ground. His body was absorbing the qi of heaven and earth and releasing it from his body at the same time. The qi around Lin Feng's body turned into a glowing essence. That essence surrounded his body like an aura. His dark spirit was thrashing around. Lin Feng knew that he was about to break through to the Ling Qi layer. It was said that the spirit is a part of one's soul. The soul could provide many unique abilities. While sitting on the ground, Lin Feng's eyebrows strongly shook. At that moment, Lin Feng had a very strange feeling, but he was unable to describe it. It was as if something was calling out to him. At that moment, Lin Feng felt a strong pain throughout his body. He knew that the most dangerous moment had arrived. Only those with an extremely strong determination were able to make their spirit awaken. Everybody knew that on the continent, without an extremely strong willpower and determination, the spirit could not awaken. The pain became stronger and stronger. Lin Feng felt like his soul was being torn into pieces, slice by slice, piece by piece. Lin Feng was suffering so much that he bit his lips so hard that blood began to flow. So painful, how can it be so painful? Lin Feng had underestimated the moment of the spirit awakening. He would have never thought that it would be so painful. He had nearly died in the past. The pain that he had endured before was nothing in comparison with that of the spirit awakening. This pain was inhumane. It gradually stopped raining, but Lin Feng did not notice. Lin Feng was still soaked, but he wasn't sure if it was because of the rain or because of the sweat. He only knew that his body was in agonizing pain. Shouted Lin Feng extremely loudly. The pain hadn't stopped. An even stronger pain invaded his body. The soul was being torn apart even more than before. It made him wish he could die and end his suffering. If I am unable to endure this pain, my spirit will never awaken. I will have to continue being bullied by others, like when my father and I had to leave the Lin clan. Lin Qian or the Nalong clan will continue to make attempts on my life. These repeated humiliations were unbearable. One person can only take so much humiliation and regret. Lin Feng persevered and kept thinking about his father and the humiliation he received. Nobody could stop him at that moment. Nobody could prevent him from becoming stronger, not even the gods. The pain was unable to make Lin Feng lose hope and determination. It seemed like Lin Feng's willpower was actually willing the pain away. Lin Feng also became more relaxed in his heart. His spirit should be able to awaken without any problem. Aha! Lin Feng gave a shout with unprecedented brutality. Lin Feng was suddenly shaking from head to toe. A pain infinitely stronger than what he had previously gone through until that moment invaded his body. It made Lin Feng close his eyes and grit his teeth. The 7 apertures of Lin Feng's head, eyes, ears, nostrils and mouth were all bleeding. Fuck! No! I cannot go like this! Lin Feng cursed. Immediately after, Lin Feng collapsed lifelessly on the floor. Chapter 43. Spirit awakening. Lin Feng had fallen into a dreamlike state. In this dream state, his soul had drifted from his body. His soul was floating through the endless darkness. It seemed like a world made only of darkness. In this dark world there was no sign of life. Lin Feng didn't know how long his soul had been trapped inside the darkness. There was only a single light within the darkness. It was a small radiant light which had fascinated him. What an amazing light! The more Lin Feng approached that light, the brighter and the more gorgeous it became. He found out that the light was stretching through the infinite darkness and it was impossible to reach. The light had formed a spiral above his head and became a very familiar shape. It shaped itself as a book. It seemed like the chi of the entire universe was within this book and had been there since the creation of the universe. This book had seemed to contain all of the information of the entire universe since the beginning of time itself. Lin Feng stared at the book as if it was a precious gift which had been given to him by the universe. His eyes were radiating a fascinated light. When Lin Feng opened the book and looked inside, he found endless words streaming through the pages. The stream of words began to flow off the page and into Lin Feng's body. It seemed like all of the information recorded within the book was being absorbed into Lin Feng's body. Boom! A sound rang through the air. It had sounded like Lin Feng's body had exploded from the amount of information being absorbed through his skin. Lin Feng couldn't help but powerlessly sit down on the ground. He had returned from the world of darkness and was sat down on the floor. The night was still dark and the rain was heavily pouring from the sky. It had seemed like almost no time had passed while he was inside that darkness. How could he find that magnificent book which contained such information? How could he return the sacred and magnificent light within the darkness? Phew! Lin Feng was breathing heavily. His body was shaking from the pain. His body had long passed the limit for how much pain he could endure. However, he was still alive, and thanks to that pain, he had seen a world of darkness which seemed to contain the secrets of the universe. When Lin Feng had been suffering from torture a moment before, he had really thought he was going to die from the pain of having his soul shredded. The pain was beyond any he had ever felt in this world. How could a human being endure such a pain? The pain had been so severe that he had actually collapsed and almost died. Do other people have to go through such a pain and agony when they try to awaken their spirit? Lin Feng was looking at the deep into the darkness of the night. He did not understand how so many people had awakened their spirit through so much pain. He had actually believed for a moment that he had died. Even though Lin Feng didn't think that he was gifted or talented, he did have some confidence in his own willpower. He could not help but think how people with less willpower than himself could even endure half the pain which had struck his body. When his spirit was attempting to awaken, he was filled with 3 phases of endless pain which invaded his body and shredded his soul. Each time he was stuck by the pain, it was more intense and terrifying than before. During the final phase, the pain was so terrifying that his body had actually collapsed. While his mind could endure, his body had collapsed from the pain. Thanks to his determination and infinite willpower, he had been able to endure the pain for much longer than his body should have been able. That is why he hadn't immediately collapsed, and instead he had started to bleed from his ears, eyes, nose, and mouth. Maybe the moment when the spirit awakens is a different experience for every person. Maybe it was only like this for me because of my spirit. While saying his thoughts out loud, Lin Feng's heart started pounding and he released his spirit. Lin Feng suddenly had an indescribable sensation. His surroundings seemed to have completely changed. Lin Feng wasn't in the same place any longer. Instead, he had returned to the world of darkness. This time, however, he could feel his surroundings and was much more aware of everything around him. He had the faint sense that he could see and hear everything around him, even though it was all in darkness. He could sense the grass as it swayed from the wind that was blowing. He could sense every raindrop as it fell heavily onto the ground. He had become extremely calm and he began to sense everything around him. He continued to move around and sense the changes. He did not know how much he had changed or how powerful his senses were at this point, but it seemed that at this moment he had become omniscient. He could sense everything in the world around it was all part of him. What was even more shocking to Lin Feng was that he was able to see everything. However, the eyes he was using did not look like his own eyes. They were terrifying eyes which did not look human. He could not help but tremble when looking into the eyes. What a scary feeling they gave. Dark spirit. Lin Feng realized his brain was much faster than before, and he could comprehend things more clearly than before. The power of his spirit was almost scary to him. It seemed like his power was as infinite as the darkness around him. His heart started pounding again. A colossal shadow had emerged from his back. The shadow itself was shaped as a spiral. On the top of the shadow, there was a magnificent and sacred-looking book in suspension. The book began to open. Is this a spirit? Lin Feng had a questioning look in his eyes. It seemed like that shadow was able to influence Lin Feng's spirit, which he had released into the darkness. Everything seemed to be so clear. The scene looked just like in his dream. An endless darkness, and within that darkness was a bright light. The book had appeared and was floating quietly above his head. In Lin Feng's memories, a spirit which could be released twice didn't exist. It was as if that spirit had 2 layers which could be released. The first layer was a shadow which merged with the world itself and created the world of darkness. The second layer was a celestial book. Lin Feng had thought that his spirit had initially failed to fully awaken. But not only did it seem that it hadn't failed, but that it also had gone beyond common knowledge. Celestial book. A book spirit. Lin Feng didn't know what kind of spirit he had at that moment. In the continent of the 9 clouds, there was an infinite amount of skills and spirits. The awakening of a spirit also constituted a considerable change. There weren't many people who could fully understand the mysteries of spirits. They only knew that there were a lot of different spirits which would all be different once awakened, depending on the person who had awakened the spirit. The book spirit was a mysterious and mystical one. Lin Feng was in awe. Its strength didn't reside in releasing attacks or protecting him during a fight. It was inefficient in both offense and defense, but those who possessed a book spirit could write down unusual things within the book. These unusual and extraordinary things could greatly influence the cultivation speed of those who possessed such a spirit. Oh my God, Lin Feng sighed. Suddenly, within the dark pupils shone two radiant silver lights. It looked like the sun was shining within these dark eyes. It happened for a short moment and then the silver lights disappeared. Lin Feng was thinking deeply. These small lights meant that the first page of the book had been opened. It seemed like he had been granted magical powers by the universe. I will call you my celestial spirit, Lin Feng whispered. His spirit gradually dissipated and Lin Feng's eyes became normal again. His eyes returned to normal and the terrifying darkness had left. He could see clearly and normally. He only had a strange sensation remaining on his back. He turned his head. A white-colored qi was still flowing from his body endlessly. Lin Feng could use the qi heaven and earth as he wished. He could create a shocking power with this qi. Lin Feng had broken through to the Ling Qi layer. After the awakening of his dark spirit, which was the first layer, he was able to release the second layer of his celestial spirit. Even though his small snake spirit hadn't been able to awaken, Lin Feng was still extremely satisfied. Releasing the first layer of his celestial spirit would be enough to greatly increase his strength. The second layer, his book spirit, would provide him with support which would benefit him on his path of cultivation, and it did not require being released for him to gain the benefits. First Ling Qi layer. From now on I am unstoppable, thought Lin Feng confidently while smiling. He could feel how terrifying the changes were within his dark spirit. The first layer of his celestial spirit was his dark spirit, but its power was terrifying. From that moment, if Lin Feng met Lin Qian, he would have no problem defeating her. Even if Lin Qian was extremely arrogant, she still had an ice and fire universal spirit, but it was nothing when compared with his dark spirit. It was still raining but the sun had started to rise on the horizon. Some rays of sunlight had started passing through the atmosphere. Lin Feng stood up and looked at his clothes which were soaked from the rain. He couldn't help but smile. Sitting outside all night had been an insane experience. Lin Feng raised his head and gazed into the distance, and he thought about what had happened during the night, when he had ruthlessly slaughtered dozens of cultivators back in the city. If he had been a little bit weaker, he would have died in a tragic death. Nalan clan of Yangzhou City, Nalan Feng, you will sooner rather than later regret what you did last night. Lin Feng stood up and started walking. In Yangzhou City, on City Avenue there was a huge crowd gathered. The atmosphere was extremely lively and noisy. 6 people plus Cholan. There is still one spot left. That's much too scary. Each and every one of them is extremely strong. I will definitely take the final spot, said a young man in the crowd confidently. In your dreams. They already chose the 8th one. It's Feng Qian. Feng Qian is at the 9th Qi layer. He's much stronger than anyone else within the clan. A moment ago, he didn't insist on participating, but that's just that he didn't feel like it. He has now made his move because he was annoyed that he was not selected sooner. How could you possibly fight against Feng Qian? Said the person standing beside him. Scary, said the young man when the young man heard the name Feng Qian. His face changed in a flash. He felt extremely depressed. It seemed that this time the clan head wasn't going to choose him. The Nalan clan had always organized an annual tournament. However, this year, apart from the 4 biggest clans and external clans who were not located in Yangzhou City, outstanding disciples belonging to other small clans could also participate. However, these small clans were only allowed to send 8 disciples to participate in the tournament. On the same basis, the clans within the city, the Nalan clan, the Gu clan, the Lin clan and the One clan were also allowed a maximum of 8 disciples. These disciples were supposed to represent the most outstanding disciples of Yangzhou City. This had made participating in the tournament a real honor and privilege which would allow outstanding disciples of all clans to show their abilities to a large number of people. Unfortunately for some people, the Nalan clan as well as the other 3 big clans had already chosen their participants. Cholan was chosen as one of the participants because she was extremely strong. At that moment, there were already 7 people, which meant the clan had to choose one last disciple, and this position in the tournament was most likely to be Feng Qian. Feng Qian was wearing blue robes. He was slim and had an arrogant look on his face. At that moment, He had arms folded over his chest as he walked out of the crowd and said in a cold and detached way, "That last participant is me." When people saw how arrogant he looked, they could not help but be filled with hatred and regret. Some of the younger generation wanted to duel with him and measure themselves against him, but considering his strength, they had to be careful. It seemed like they were only going to be able to watch as members of the audience. Feng Qian looked at the several hundreds of people who were present with a look of disdain. So many pieces of trash. They are all cowards. No wonder they were not chosen, and I'm the one who was chosen to participate," said Feng Qian in a spiteful tone as he started to head towards the main hall. In the main hall, there were already 7 people sitting in a calm state. These were precisely Qiu Lan as well as the 6 others who had been chosen to participate. That guy is really as arrogant as the rumors say. They say that he is extremely cruel to all of his opponents and will even use diabolic methods to win. Who would dare challenge him? The consequences of challenging him would only be disastrous. He would probably cripple their cultivation, said the many people in the crowd. Even though many people hated Feng Qian, nobody dared open their mouth. Feng Qian was savage and cruel. Amongst people of the Qi layer, there were very few people who could defeat him, which made him even more arrogant and prideful. He enjoyed bullying those weaker than him. The people within the crowd had no choice but to look at him join the others in the main hall. "Wait, wait, wait," said a loud voice. In the quiet crowd, that voice was particularly clear and loud. The crowd was surprised for a moment, and then they could see a young man approaching from the distance. This young man was wearing white robes. Even though his robes didn't look expensive, he looked clean and pure from head to toe. He was carrying a long sword on his back. His body looked sturdy but gentle. The crowd found him fascinating. He looked as limpid as water. He gave an aura of mystery to all those who laid eyes on him. His clear eyes were filled with deep, profound understanding. His appearance and age did not seem to match with his wisdom. When people in the crowd saw him, they were gasping with admiration and had a feeling of inferiority in his presence. The young man who had appeared was actually Lin Feng after having had a shower and changed his clothes. After having asked around, he had quickly learnt that there was a selection for the upcoming tournament happening, and he quickly hurried to the location. Feng Qian looked at Lin Feng, his arms still folded over his chest. He looked at Lin Feng in a disdainful way while grinning and said, "You are telling me to wait?" "Indeed," said Lin Feng, looking like he didn't understand Feng Qian's expression. He indifferently nodded. Feng Qian was still grinning and then looked at Lin Feng as if he had compassion for him, even though Lin Feng was a few years younger than him. He then smiled and said, "Do you know the consequences for making me wait?" Lin Feng smiled wryly and was a bit surprised. On the path of cultivation, there were many people who were talented and thought they were geniuses. It seemed like those kinds of people liked to show off their powers against those weaker than themselves, as if they were playing a role which had to appear noble and strong. It had become clear to him that people in this world would continue to play these roles and act foolishly for the sake of appearances. Lin Feng started walking towards Feng Qian with complete calmness on his face. The crowd was wondering what was going on and started to watch Lin Feng. Was that guy insane? He was about 16 years, so he could have only reached the 7th or 8th Qi layer. Yet he still thought he could compete with Feng Qian, who belonged to one of the most powerful of the small clans in Yangzhou City, and he was even considered a genius. That young guy wanted to challenge Feng Qian. But only the most talented, the most gifted, and the most outstanding disciples of Yangzhou City could compete with him. How could this unknown young man possibly fit that criteria? It looks like you also want to enter into the main hall. I really don't know if I should admire you for your courage, but what you're doing is extremely foolish. However, since you want to challenge me, I will cripple your cultivation for being foolish enough to think you are worthy to stand on the same level as me," said Feng Qian, clearly directing his hatred towards Lin Feng. Shying! The metallic sound of a sword cutting through the air filled the atmosphere, and a bright light filled the space in front of Feng Qian. Immediately after, Feng Qian fell down onto the ground and began to roll around while groaning. Blood was pouring out of his mouth. He was coughing heavily and more blood was filling his mouth. Feng Qian raised himself to the point he was kneeling on one knee. Blood was unceasingly spilling out of his mouth. Drops of blood were endlessly falling onto the ground. Lin Feng simply put his sword back into his sheath with a clink sound. The people within the crowd just stared at what had happened in shock. They were all trembling with excitement and fear. Lin Feng? Had Lin Feng defeated Feng Qian in a single strike? How powerful, said a man while shivers ran down his spine. Not only was he about 16 years old, but Feng Qian had been unable to carry out one single attack against him. Lin Feng had even shown mercy and had been gentle when using his sword. Otherwise, Feng Qian would have immediately been killed. You really do talk crap, way too much crap. You should be more careful with your word, said Lin Feng in a cold tone while not even looking at Feng Qian, who was behind him, kneeling on the floor. Then, Lin Feng continued walking towards the main hall. Feng Qian was looking at Lin Feng with disdain. And in the end, Lin Feng didn't even give him another glance, as he wasn't worth it. While looking at Lin Feng from behind, Feng Qian had a million thoughts at the same time. You really do talk crap, way too much crap. You should be more careful with your words. He continued to repeat the words that Lin Feng said to him. The path of cultivation is full of surprises. The sky is vast and the ocean is deep. Who knows exactly how vast and deep they are? The world could be flipped upside down in instances. Some cultivators believe themselves lucky to be such strong geniuses, only to find they are only small fish in a very large pond. To keep being lucky, to remain a strong genius, a cultivator would need to possess a strong willpower and determination towards training. A cultivator like Feng Qian of the 9th Qi layer was like a frog at the bottom of a well. He could not see how vast the world really was. Therefore, being arrogant and provoking wasn't a good behavior to adopt, and Lin Feng's sword had taught him a long-deserved lesson. Strength was everything in this world. While struggling to get onto his feet, Feng Qian was looking at Lin Feng's back and was bowing. He wasn't holding awe and veneration for Lin Feng. It was rather that he felt thankful that Lin Feng had taught him that his arrogance could cost him his life and gave him a great lesson. The road of cultivation is not one in which you should provoke others. It was also not one in which you could allow yourself to be provoked without retaliation. That event had made a lot of people feel puzzled, but some people's expressions were resplendent, as if they had understood what had just happened in front of them. However, Lin Feng hadn't noticed these expressions. He wasn't completely in the main hall yet when the 7 others' expressions suddenly changed when they saw him approaching. Qiu Lan was particularly surprised. In the Whistle Wind restaurant, she had seen him and obviously knew a lot about Lin Feng. She also knew everything about the problems Lin Feng had within the Lin clan. I will be participating in the tournament this year, Lin Feng said, sounding relaxed yet strict while looking at Qiu Lan. He was bold and straightforward. He insisted that he had to participate. How audacious, said a disciple sitting next to Qiu Lan while slapping the table, which made the wooden table crack in a loud bang. Who do you think you are? Thinking that you can actually talk to Qiu Lan as you wish, said the angered disciple. He was called Wuxia. Everybody was fantasizing about the beautiful Qiu Lan. Besides, she was extremely powerful and was at the pinnacle beyond the 9th Qi layer. Feng Qian's power was nothing in comparison. He had seen how Lin Feng had defeated Feng Qian in one hit, and how easy it had seemed for Lin Feng. He had thus noticed how strong Lin Feng was. Therefore, at that moment, Wu Zhao's behavior was just an empty show of strength to gain Qiu Lan's attention and make her like him. Lin Feng glanced at Wu Xiao and then walked towards him, after which Wu Xiao immediately stood up and released a strong qi, ready to engage in a battle. The white and dazzling light of the sword flashed and stabbed Wu Xiao so quickly that he had had no time to react at all. He gave a horrible shriek, not able to strike back. Speed. After having broken through to the Ling Qi layer, Lin Feng's swordplay had become incredibly quick and agile, even more so than before. Lin Feng grabbed Wu Zhao's neck and carried him to the entrance of the main hall. Why would a piece of trash like you want to participate in the tournament? How pointless. While saying this in a loud voice, Lin Feng kicked Wu Zhao's body, which flew out of the main hall and rolled down the steps onto the ground of the main square where the crowd was. Is that Wu Xiao? It is Wu Xiao. Shouts of surprise filled the air around the crowd as they watched Wu Xiao fly out of the main hall and roll down the steps. Wu Xiao was much stronger than Feng Qian. He was quite famous in Yangzhou City, but this genius had also been defeated by that unknown young man who had entered the main hall. Being injured and publicly humiliated was the price that he paid for angering Lin Feng. Lin Feng had shown him no mercy and insulted him as he kicked him from the main hall. Who is that young disciple? How arrogant. Which clan does he belong to? I have never seen him before today. Where did he come from? Everybody who was there wanted to know who that young man was. They did not believe that there was such a genius within Yangzhou City who had escaped their attention for so long. A disciple who was this strong would have come to the attention of the smaller clans by now. However, they had absolutely no idea who this young man was. How is such a thing possible? If everyone knew who that arrogant and domineering young man who had just entered the main hall was, they would be astonished to know that it was the piece of trash who had been expelled from the Lin clan. According to the rumors, he was expelled along with his father for being trash. His father had even attacked a junior clan member to protect Lin Feng. They would be shocked that the trash within these rumors was the powerful and domineering young man in front of their eyes. The other disciples, who were in the main hall, all belonged to the smaller clans within Yangzhou City. They were all the talented and powerful members of the younger generations. The disciples who made up the 8 participants were the strongest talents which the smaller clans could develop. The day of the annual tournament had finally arrived, and there was a huge commotion as the crowd watched members from the larger clans arrive in the arena. This would be a chance for them to see all of the talents which would shape the future of the city. They would not have this opportunity often. Look over there. Seated on the southern part of the arena are the members of the Lin clan. The one in the middle is Lin Ba Dao. It looks like the rumors are true. Lin Hai's cultivation was crippled by Lin Ba Dao, and then his son and him were expelled from the Lin clan. Discussions could be heard while many people were looking at where the Lin clan members were sitting. One could hear all sorts of comments from the crowd. There was a constant discussion and many people were paying attention to the Lin clan because of the rumors which were circulating in Yangzhou City. It had caused a sensation throughout the city. At that moment, the rumors were confirmed. That's Lin Qian, how beautiful. But she's a bit scary. She has already broken through to the Ling Qi layer. And she's only 16 years old. She's amazing. I wish she could one day become my wife. In your dreams? Oh, keep it down. If people from the Lin clan hear you, they'll cripple your cultivation or even worse, behead you. I'm just saying. Look over there, the Nalan clan has also arrived. That's the head of the city and the Princess Nalan Feng. The crowd continued to make comments as the people arrived in the arena. At that moment, the members of the Nalan clan had already arrived and had taken their respective seats in the arena, close to the stage. Nalan Xiong was famous, tall and sturdy. He looked extremely prestigious. Only by looking at him, it was easy to guess that he had an extraordinary power. When Nala Xiong saw the expressions of the people in the crowd, he smiled and then immediately said, "Today, everybody was able to come to the tournament that I organized. I, Nalan Xiong, am extremely happy. However, if anyone dares to make trouble, I, Nalan Xiong, will not hesitate and will deal with you in a very rude manner." Many people nodded. They were facing the Nalan clan. Even if they wanted to cause trouble, they first needed the skills and abilities to do so. Alright, enough with my useless speech. I know that all of you haven't come to listen to an old man like me. Let's invite our outstanding young cultivators to come onto the battle stage, alright? Said Nalan Xiong, and then he sat down. Everybody nodded when he finished speaking. All the young and outstanding disciples were getting ready to make their appearance on the stage. The huge battle arena was composed of many fighting stages. On each of the fighting stages, 8 silhouettes could be seen. The Nalan clan was set higher than the others, and its participants were standing on the highest stage in the middle of all the others. They looked like warlords looking down with supremacy. The other participants surrounded them on their own fighting stage like the stars surrounded the moon in the night sky. There was also the major clans such as the Gu clan, the Lin clan, the One clan. Qiu Lan had played a big role in the organization of the smaller clans. At that moment, along with the Nalan clan members, there was an old man sitting next to Nalan Xiong who stood up. He was staring at the fighting stages. Today is our yearly tournament. The purpose of this tournament is to test the strength of the most outstanding young cultivators of Yangzhou City. Therefore, nobody should show mercy. Those who are defeated are allowed to surrender, and in case someone gives up, the fight will immediately be terminated. If nobody surrenders the fight, then the fight will continue unceasingly until someone collapses, or even dies. When the old man finished talking and the crowd burst into uproar, the fights could go on until someone died if nobody gave up. How cruel. There were some extremely proud and arrogant cultivators who attached a lot of importance to their face and prestige. Losing a battle by giving up was especially humiliating for them. Therefore, very few people were going to willingly surrender a battle. Even if they knew that they had no chance of winning, they would continue to fight to protect their honor and dignity. But that sentence made the crowd think carefully. There were no restrictions and battles could be fought to the death. If there had been restrictions, two opponents of an equal strength who refused to give up could be fighting endlessly, which could end up in a deep and bitter hatred for the opponent. How wise, how brilliant, said many people supporting the old man's words. The old man had obviously done this as a ploy to increase the hatred between the other clans, by forcing them to watch as their talented clan members would rather die than surrender. He had done this to stop the hatred between the younger generations, but increase the hatred of the older generations. That way, those who didn't agree wouldn't criticize the Nalan clan. After all, they were the clan who was hosting the tournament and had made a perfectly reasonable rule. However, it also meant that Nalan clan members could be killed within the arena. The crowd knew they were going to see some people die, and that the different clans of Yangzhou City would once again sow the seeds of hatred for one another. Nalan Xiong wanted to see the other clans hate each other. Even though the three other clans knew what Nalan Xiong had in mind, they had no choice but to agree. Since they didn't want to lose face and as they were considered as the best clans in the city, all they could do was tell their young disciples to strive for victory with all their strength. Besides, the old man had also said that those who wished could give up and the battle would immediately end. Therefore, that rule was double-edged and couldn't be really contradicted as the choice was given. But who would accept having their own clan regarded as inferior to the others? I finished writing down the names of all those who are participating in this year's tournament. I have also finished organizing the battles. I don't know if anyone has any objections to my work, said the old man while looking at the members of the three other powerful clans. Everything was organized by the Nalan clan. I of course agree, said the head of the Gu clan, even though it seemed like he didn't really care. The previous tournaments were organized by the Nalan clan and were managed by them as well. This time is obviously going to be the same. I have no objection either, said Lin Badao, who was obviously not going to oppose the Nalan clan. I represent the Nalan clan and I would like to thank all the clan heads for their cooperation, said the old man while looking at the members of the three other clans and then declared, the rules are as such and are applied from the very first battle. Being defeated leads to elimination, winning allows you to continue. And now let me announce what the battles will be. All of those who hear their names can stay on stage, the others can come down and wait. On the Nalan stage, Nalan Feng will fight against Wen Xan of the One clan. On the eastern stage, Gu Yun of the Gu clan will fight against Lin Wu of the Lin clan. On the southern stage, Lin Yu of the Lin clan will fight against Wen Feng of the One clan. On the western stage, Nalan Zhu of the Nalan clan will fight against Feng Qian. On the northern stage, Duo Ming will fight against Gu Qing Jr. of the Gu clan. There were 5 fighting stages, so there could be only 10 people fighting at once. There were 40 people in total. 4 rounds were enough to eliminate half of them, and so that only 20 people would be left. Those who hadn't been called stepped down from the stages while those who had been called were going on to their respective stages. Ha ha ha, when Xian is really unlucky, having to fight Nalan Feng as a first battle. Even though when Xian was not weak, she had no chance to win. I heard that Lin Wu of the Lin clan has become quite strong. He has already reached the 9th Qi layer. It seems like he's definitely going to be the one to win the battle on eastern stage. On the southern stage, Wen Feng should win the battle. On the northern stage, Feng Qian should win. Concerning the last stage, even though Duo Ming is extremely mysterious and wearing a mask, Gu Qing Jr. is almost invincible, so Duo Ming is pretty unlucky there. The battles hadn't even started and everyone in the crowd was making predictions, as if they were certain of the outcomes. After all, the crowd knew almost all these young disciples, who the majority had originated from Yangzhou City, and had a deep understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. But on the northern stage, Duo Ming also attracted the crowd's attention. He was wearing a mask, they had never heard of him, and there was something fascinating which surrounded him like an aura. He carried an air of mystery. Too bad that he was going to fight Gu Qing Jr. He was already doomed and was going to lose immediately. Indeed, Gu Qing Jr. had already reached the peak of the Qi layer. There were not a lot of cultivators of the Qi layer who could fight against him and win. His only real opponents were mostly within the Ling Qi layer. Gu Qing Jr. was also quite famous in the region. Thus, it was impossible for Duo Ming to defeat Gu Qing Jr. The predictions of the crowd were also quite accurate. When Xian didn't fight against Na Lanfeng and gave up. Even though face and prestige were extremely important, giving up when facing Na Lanfeng was nothing to be ashamed of. Fighting against Na Lanfeng definitely meant dying. On the eastern and western stages, results were gradually coming out and the predictions of the crowd were correct each time. Lin Wu, Wen Feng and Feng Qian were about to defeat their opponents and move on to the next round of the tournament. Only the battle on the northern stage was still in progress and it had made everyone within the crowd grow speechless. In Gu Qing Jr.'s eyes, Duo Ming didn't even exist. He regarded Duo Ming as an ant to crush beneath his boot on his path to cultivation. Gu Qing Jr. kept looking at the battles on the other stages, rather than defeating his own opponent. After all, he would be able to move forward to the next round at any time he wanted, so he wanted to get familiar with the fighting styles of his following opponents. I will not fight against Na Lanfeng, so I hope I will not be matched with her in the upcoming battles. Lin Wu and Wen Feng will be very easy to defeat. As far as Feng Qian is concerned, it seems like his strength has greatly improved recently, but I should be able to dispose of him really quickly as well. Victory will be a piece of cake if I have to fight these three. Gu Qing Jr. was lost in deep thought and continued to act as if the young man who was wearing the silver mask didn't exist at all while thinking about the next rounds. Finally, Feng Qian had his hand on his opponent Na Lanju's throat. Na Lanju didn't want to keep fighting and surrendered the fight. Everybody's attention was on the northern stage. It finished. How quick? Said the crowd amazed. It seemed like the first round was about to come to an end. Gu Qing, stop wasting time, said the head of the Gu clan, sounding indifferent yet slightly arrogant, as if Gu Qing could end the battle as soon as he wished. All right, I will do as the clan head requests, replied Gu Qing Jr. Then, he looked at Lin Feng, who was hiding his identity with a silver mask, and said coldly, "Get down from here yourself, you're not worth fighting." Lin Feng touched his silver mask. One could only see his eyes and a small part of his face, but it was impossible to see his facial expression. Lin Feng had also been ignoring Gu Qing Jr. He hadn't hurried to fight, and had also been observing the other battles. He didn't have to worry now either. Gu Qing Jr. was extremely arrogant and rather than fighting had told him to get off the stage. Lin Feng was already used to those cultivators who thought that they were untouchable and did not give respect to others, but demanded respect in return, those so-called geniuses. Did you not hear what I just said? I'm telling you to get down from here. So get lost. If you are not smart enough to get down yourself, I will immediately kill you. Gu Qing Jr. saw that Lin Feng wasn't reacting at all and then frowned. The talented individuals within the powerful clans despised cultivators who considered themselves as geniuses, but didn't belong to a clan which held a status like the powerful clans. Without the strong support behind them, they would have to work extremely hard for minimal gains. How could a cultivator become a man of great talent if he didn't belong to a powerful clan? People like Do Ming who didn't belong to a powerful clan would have no reputation and could be disposed of by his clan at any point. That is why Gu Qing Jr. despised such cultivators and regarded them as beneath his notice. I haven't changed my mind yet, so seize that opportunity and get lost, said Lin Feng in a voice full of hatred. As he spat out those words filled with hatred, it had surprised everyone in the crowd. Right after, some people grinned. Could it be that that guy was insane? Qiu Lan wasn't laughing though. She thought that Lin Feng was very mysterious, almost mystical. He seemed extremely strong compared to others within the tournament. She had seen how Lin Feng had made Wuxia collapse with just a single strike. Gu Qing Jr., I hope you are prepared to die, shouted Feng Qian, who was focusing on what was going on the northern stage. He had come to understand that Gu Qing Jr.'s behavior would just lead to his death. After receiving a lesson from Lin Feng, he has greatly matured and come to realize his own mistake. The less respect that was given to Lin Feng, the less mercy he would show. Gu Qing Jr.'s face at that moment had changed and he no longer looked as if he was at ease. He couldn't believe what Lin Feng had just said to him. He couldn't believe that a young man, who didn't belong to a powerful clan such as his own, would dare to talk to him that way. He was the second-ranked disciple of the Gu clan amongst all the disciples of the Qi layer. He was regarded as an extremely strong and talented disciple by all the members of the Gu clan. Finish him, Gu Qing Sr. said in a loud yet calm voice which made everyone shiver. Lin Feng would lose, that was obvious, but Gu Qing Sr. meant that he wanted Gu Qing to kill Lin Feng where he stood. All right, said Gu Qing Jr., who noticed that his father, who was also the clan head, had become extremely furious. He quickly started moving at an incredible speed. He wasn't going to give Lin Feng any chance to surrender. Poisonous fist, shouted Gu Qing Jr. His fist was emitting a whistling sound as it started breaking through the air, as if he was shattering the atmosphere into pieces. But Lin Feng remained motionless like a mountain. At the moment when the poisonous fist was about to reach him, a bright light flashed in front of his body. The sword was too fast for anyone to see what had happened. It seemed like time had stopped and everything remained motionless. No one in the crowd had seen what had happened or why Gu Qing Jr. had stopped moving. Suddenly Gu Qing Jr.'s body fell heavily onto the ground as his head started to roll away from his body. The crowd stared on in complete silence. This was a slightly harder chapter for me. Very long and needed a few rewrites. To all those coming from Reddit, share the love over there. I need the love from you guys to punish myself to this extent for you, haha. This was a slightly harder chapter for me. Very long and needed a few rewrites. To all those coming from Reddit, share the love over there. I need the love from you guys to punish myself to this extent for you, haha. Special thanks again to Velkin for this chapter. Hugs and kisses, I hope you all enjoy. The crowd was looking at Gu Qing Jr.'s dead body lying on the ground of the northern stage. He had been killed with a single strike which was so fast that many could only see Lin Feng sheathing his sword. Not only had the strong and powerful Gu Qing been killed in a single strike, but he had also been killed in the blink of an eye and had been given no chance to surrender. That sword, how fast! How skillful! Said a man in the crowd, mouth wide open, almost drooling. They hadn't even been able to see what had happened as the movements were so fast. The crowd was unable to see what kind of sword skill had been used by this mysterious masked disciple. They only knew that it had happened with extreme speed and precision. The sword had disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Only someone who had practiced his skills to perfection was able to carry out such precise attacks. His sword looked like an agile shadow that avoided the gazes of the crowd. The crowd was looking at Lin Feng and thinking about the flash they had just seen. He had obviously used a sword skill during that split second and with it unleashed devastating power. He had been able to kill Gu Qing Jr. with ease. Amazing! Feng Qian was looking at Lin Feng speechless. He imagined what would have happened if he had been the one fighting against Lin Feng. He would not have noticed the sword before his head was already removed from his body. Even if what had happened the previous day had changed his views and had made him more determined and respectful, even with a few more years of cultivation, he wouldn't want to face the Lin Feng before him. Gu Qing Sr. stood up while looking at the battle stage. His face grew red with fury and his face viciously twisted in anger. While looking at his son's headless corpse on the battle stage, he released an extremely strong qi. Gu Qing Jr. was dead. One of the most outstanding junior disciples of the Gu clan was dead. He hadn't been able to even react to his opponent's sword. Gu Qing Sr. hated Lin Feng from the bottom of his heart. You dared kill him, said Gu Qing Sr. in a voice which sounded like a thunder which made everyone's heart beat faster. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at Gu Qing Sr., who was in a towering rage. Lin Feng's pupils were pitch black and he then said, "Are you insinuating that I should have stood here and done nothing and just let him kill me? How stupid are you?" When Gu Qing Sr. heard these words, he remained silent. He really wanted Gu Qing Jr. to kill Lin Feng. How could he not allow Lin Feng to kill Gu Qing Jr.? In life, there are such principles as defending one's own life. Because Gu Qing Jr. was a member of the Gu clan, he thus wanted Gu Qing Jr. to kill Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng killing Gu Qing Jr., even if it was justified, was still a crime in his eyes. "You're very good. You will not live much longer," said Gu Qing Sr. in an indifferent tone. He had made no attempts to conceal his killing intent. As the crowd heard these words, they felt compassion for Lin Feng. Even though he was extremely strong and had been able to kill one of the most outstanding disciples of the Gu clan with one strike, there was no chance that the Gu clan would let him leave alive. "My name is Duoming," said Lin Feng while looking straight into Gu Qing Sr.'s eyes. He then went down off the stage and his voice echoed throughout the arena as he said, "If any of your Gu clan cross paths with me, I will decorate this arena with their heads." The crowd was stupefied by Lin Feng's words. It seemed like he had directly challenged the powerful Gu clan and spat in their face. He sounded insane, too insane. He had also sounded insufferably arrogant. He was an ordinary young man and he surprisingly dared threaten the large and powerful Gu clan. He said that he would kill any of them if they found themselves in his path. He was challenging the entire Gu clan. He was defying all of its members. Obviously, all of the young members of the Gu clan who heard him burst into an uproar and cursed in rage. However, even though the words coming out of their mouths were fierce, many of them were extremely nervous. They thought that the best thing would be to never cross his path. He had killed Gu Qing Jr. with a single effortless strike. In the Gu clan, except for those of the Ling Qi layer, they feared that nobody would be able to fight against Lin Feng and return with their head. The best result would be to have Lin Feng fight the stronger members of the Gu clan, like Gu Yan. That way, he would be able to avenge Gu Qing Jr.'s death. They had no doubts when it came to Gu Yan's strength. He was a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. Lin Feng would never be able to compete with him even if he was extremely strong. "If I come across him, his death will be tragic and brutal," said Gu Yan standing amongst the other members of the Gu clan while looking at Lin Feng with ice-cold murderous intentions in his eyes. He would kill him and torture him to regain the clan's face. The first round hadn't taken a lot of time and now it had come to an end. There were 20 people left within the tournament. There would be 2 more fights on each stage and 10 people would be remaining. In this round, Lin Feng wasn't going against a member of the Gu clan. He was going to fight against an amazing and outstanding member of the Nalan clan. Nalan Chan. "If you can fight, then fight. If you don't feel like fighting, then just surrender," said Nalan Feng to Nalan Chan. As before, she was setting herself high above the others in an arrogant way while looking at the northern stage. "All right," said Nalan Chan while nodding, but he was eager to test his strength. Even though he wasn't as famous and popular as Gu Qing Jr., he was also at the 9th Qi layer. He thought that Gu Qing Jr.'s reputation was undeserved. He thought that because Gu Qing Jr. had underestimated Lin Feng, he had caused his own death to be so swift. This time, Nalan Chan was definitely going to defeat Lin Feng and make himself famous and gain the status and respect that came with it. Lin Feng, whose face was still under his mask, was looking at Nalan Feng with an ice-cold glare. If they could fight, then fight, otherwise just surrender? What was that supposed to mean? Lin Feng hadn't forgotten what had happened on that night, when the Nalan clan had sent their clan members to chase and kill him. All of that had happened only because he had refused to allow Nalan Feng to sit down on his table. "I will use all my strength in this battle. I will make you lose. I will show everyone how prestigious and powerful my clan is compared to others," said Nalan Chan while staring at Lin Feng and getting prepared to fight. "All right, let's start quickly then," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. He wanted to see how powerful and prestigious the Nalan clan really was. Divine Arm Spirit. Even though Nalan Chan wanted to protect the Nalan clan reputation and make it even more famous, he still didn't dare go easy on Lin Feng. Therefore, he released his spirit. Behind him had appeared a thick and muscular arm spirit, reaching towards the sky as if it wanted to climb its way to the heavens. Only those who are directly blood related to the Na lands possess that divine arm spirit. How majestic! It is said that the divine arm spirit can give its owner the strength of a god. How could one defeat the possessor of such a powerful spirit? One punch and his opponent will be killed. Because he had released his divine arm spirit, Nalan Chan was extremely confident and carried out a ruthless surprise attack towards Lin Feng. Divine punch! Nalan Chan shouted. His punch hadn't reached its destination yet, but aura surrounding the fist was breaking through the air and shattering the atmosphere. It was clearly an elemental force. How powerful! So that is the strength of that divine arm spirit, which can only be possessed only by members of the Nalan clan. Not only is Nalan Chan already at the 9th Qi layer, but he can already use elemental forces. The whole crowd was stupefied. Lin Feng was surrounded by the strong qi contained within the punch, and the air was distorting around him. The shadow of a fist had filled the entire sky. "You want to die," Lin Feng said. A cold silver light flashed through the air. Brilliant rays of light filled the atmosphere. With only one strike, the gigantic fist shadow had completely disappeared without trace. There was only the resplendent light of Lin Feng's sword, which at this moment looked glorious. Na Lanqin's facial expression had changed. He didn't stop releasing punches, which made him step back each time. He had prepared a chain of strikes in case his first strike had failed. Die. Lin Feng said only one word, and Na Lanqin felt like his heart had been stabbed. An overpowering light suddenly burst out from the sword. It burst through the atmosphere and then penetrated deeply into Na Lanqin's throat. His body was sent flying backwards, his body landed heavily on the ground, and his head was only attached by a small amount of flesh. There was a huge hole through his neck. His eyes were open wide and were filled with complete shock. The divine armed spirit of the Na Lang clans was able to accomplish great miracles. But Lin Feng's sword was also able to accomplish great things. The sword strike is strong, but its user is terrifyingly strong. When the crowd saw Na Lanqin's body collapse, they felt chills running down their spines, and they were staring blankly at Lin Feng. As before, one strike had been enough to kill his opponent. Na Lanxiong, the head of the Na Lang clan, was also seized with terror and was rigidly staring at Lin Feng. "You are damn brave. You surprisingly dared to kill a member of the Na Lang clan." After a moment of hesitation, Na Lanfeng shouted those words extremely loudly and angrily towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at Na Lanfeng. Then he smiled coldly and said, "I understand your rules now. Na Lang clan members are allowed to kill others, but others are not allowed to kill members of your clan. You're really beyond shameless." "You," Na Lanfeng said furiously and then stopped herself. She didn't know if she should reply. "Just wait until you fight against me," said Na Lanfeng, looking glum. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Lin Feng ignored Na Lanfeng's remark, immediately turned around and came down off the stage. He didn't feel like speaking useless words to children. Duo Ming. He looks like a conqueror when he uses his sword. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng and sighed with jealousy. Only a fearless or an extremely brave person would dare to provoke Lin Feng again. Those who hadn't been eliminated yet also looked concerned. They were all sighing and hoping that they wouldn't have to fight against him. That would be the best possible scenario for them. That guy was able to kill with one swift strike, and when fighting against him, there was absolutely no chance to surrender the fight before he attacked. The second round came to an end very quickly, and only 10 people were left. 10 people left 5 stages. Another round would be enough. "Have a quick rest and then we'll continue with the third round," announced the old man who had stepped on the stage. The crowd was slightly disappointed. They couldn't wait to watch the next battles. There were 10 people left. All the clans had their main representatives in the remaining disciples. The Lin clan still had 2 participants. Against all expectations, the Gu clan only had 1 person left. Those who were left were the strongest within the tournament. However, all eyes were fixed on the masked disciple Lin Feng. This round should be amazing considering the strength of those left. It is very clear how strong they are. Na Lanfeng, Lin Qian as well as Wen Jiang should be the 3 strongest. Then there should be Gu Yan of the Gu clan and Qiu Lan. Then there is Lin Hong of the Lin clan, who has already broken through to the Ling Qi layer. As far as the extremely strong yet arrogant Duo Ming, those who haven't broken through to the Ling Qi layer shouldn't be able to defeat him. If he's lucky, he should be ranked 7th. If he's lucky, he should be able to move on to the next round. The crowd was discussing the upcoming rankings. Everybody else nodded, showing that they agreed with the previous statements. These should be quite accurate predictions. If Duo Ming managed to be ranked directly after those who had reached the Ling Qi layer, that would be beyond extraordinary. The break was a short one to allow the final 10 to regain their composure from the last battles. None of them had any substantial injuries from the previous fights. The old man declared the beginning of the third round. The crowd was burning with enthusiasm at the upcoming battles. Amongst the 10 people qualified for this round, 6 of them were at the Ling Qi layer. Duo Ming couldn't be as strong as them but was still extremely strong. There were only 3 people in whom the crowd wasn't very interested. Thus, most of the fights were going to be fascinating. This was going to be an entertaining show. There were some stages which strongly attracted people's attention. On one of them, 2 participants of the Ling Qi layer were going to fight, Qiu Lan against Lin Hong. The other battle which drew people's attention was Gu Yan against Duo Ming. The other 3 battles were not that interesting. Na Lanfeng, Lin Qian as well as Wen Jiang could immediately conclude and move on to the next round. The predictions of the crowd were almost completely accurate. Those facing Na Lanfeng and Lin Qian had immediately given up. Wen Jiang had been fighting against Feng Qian. Even though Feng Qian had fought with all his strength, Wen Jiang had easily won the battle after 3 hits. Feng Qian had been blown off the stage with an explosive force. Wen Jiang hadn't even used all his strength to deal with Feng Qian. The difference between a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer and one of the Qi layer was too big. If they fought, the result was usually obvious. At this moment, the crowd was currently paying attention to the fight between Qiu Lan and Lin Hong. They were both followed with great interest by the crowd, and the victor of this battle was not clear. On the northern stage, Gu Yan was looking at Lin Feng with an ice-cold look, and killing intent had completely filled his eyes. He had a murderous look and an evil grin on his face. What a stroke of luck! He had eventually been chosen to fight against Lin Feng. If Lin Feng didn't give up, Gu Yan would kill him and avenge Gu Qing Jr.'s death. He hated Lin Feng so much that he could feel it in his bones. If you are too scared to fight, then hurry up and get lost. Don't make us respectable cultivators lose face, said Gu Yan, looking at Lin Feng with a mocking gaze. Lin Feng, as usual, was standing there calm and quiet. Then he said in a cold and detached tone, "You don't need to try and provoke me into a fight with you. Don't worry, I was never planning to run away from you." Hee. When Gu Yan heard Lin Feng's words, he laughed demonically. He had managed to make Lin Feng angry enough to fight, and had made sure he would not surrender without giving Gu Yan his revenge. He wouldn't have thought that Lin Feng would actually accept his challenge so easily. How ignorant! I will teach you what it means to have broken through to the Ling Qi layer. There is a huge difference between me and you, thought Gu Yan while smiling coldly. He didn't even release his spirit because it might scare Lin Feng away, and make him surrender the fight. Immediately after, Gu Yan started walking slowly towards Lin Feng. At that moment, about 10 steps were separating Lin Feng and him when he suddenly started moving his hand. An extremely strong explosion spread through the atmosphere in Lin Feng's direction. An amazingly intense energy was blocking the sky and covering the earth to the extent it was impossible to see Lin Feng at the moment. "You will die for having dared to provoke me and the members of my clan," shouted Gu Yan. A second wave of intense power was moving towards Lin Feng. Even if Lin Feng couldn't endure the first attack, he would kill Lin Feng no matter what. He wanted to kill Lin Feng more than anything. He would not allow Lin Feng to leave this arena alive. Otherwise, he, the best young disciple of the Gu clan, would lose face, and it would be a humiliation for the Gu clan. At the moment when his powerful attack was going to crash onto Lin Feng's body, Gu Yan was already grinning with a cruel smile and was patiently awaiting the screams of pain. However, at that moment, the same resplendent light as before radiated in the atmosphere and filled the whole sky. The energy of Gu Yan's attack started looking like it was being torn apart like paper. It was growing weaker and seemed like it was going to vanish at any moment. "Die!" shouted Gu Yan loudly, looking unaffected. He moved his hand and immediately added some force into the previous wave that seemed like it was going to collapse. The attack that he unleashed had looked like it could topple the mountains and overturn seas. This attack was more than enough to kill an opponent who had broken through to the Ling Qi layer. "I refuse." Boom! The voice which loudly said, "I refuse," sounded calm and indifferent. A sword qi suddenly emerged, and it looked like it could pierce the heavens themselves. Gu Yan's energy shattered into tiny pieces. His qi had completely vanished. There was only the light of the sword, which seemed to be standing above everything within the universe. "Ling Qi layer," said Gu Yan, looking deathly pale. How could he have not anticipated that Lin Feng could have been hiding his actual strength? He was too arrogant and conceited. The sword looked desolate, and it smelt like death. It was emanating a piercingly cold qi which seemed to have an unstoppable destructive power. That sword user was conquering everything that laid in his path. His power couldn't be stopped. The sword suddenly slashed out with incredible destructive power. It felt like it was consuming everything around it. "Not good," shouted Gu Qing Sr., who had turned pale with fright. He stood up, but it seemed like it was too late already. Gu Yan had been saying he would kill Lin Feng in one hit all along. His quick surprise attack hadn't even given him a small advantage. At that moment he was unable to counterattack and was even more unable to block the sword attack. Swish, a stream of blood spilled out from Gu Yan's throat. Gu Yan, who had reached the Ling Qi layer, fell lifelessly onto the floor, his head rolling across the floor of the arena. This was also the first time that a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer had died so far during the tournament. He had died in a single strike. At that moment all the members of the Gu clan stood up. They were looking at Lin Feng in despair. They were shaking with anger and fear. The sight of their clan's bright future lying headless on the floor of the stage made them feel desperate. "I will kill you!" shouted Gu Qing Sr. so loudly that it hurt people's ears. Na Lan Xiong frowned and said, "Head of the Gu clan, how dare you? Have you forgotten that this is a tournament which was organized by the Na Lan clan?" Gu Qing Sr. looked at Na Lan Xiong completely shocked. He did not think anyone would stand in his way of removing an insignificant bug. He eventually groaned in dissatisfaction and sat down. However, from the way Gu Qing Sr. was looking at Lin Feng, it was obvious that he was never going to let him off. What? Gu Yan died? Like the other before in a single strike? Many people who were initially watching the fight between Qiu Lan and Lin Hong were astonished. Na Lan Xiong and Gu Qing Sr. had drawn their attention when shouting. When they saw Gu Yan's head which had been separated from his body, they turned pale. Many people were regretting that they had missed such a wonderful battle. They hadn't thought that the battle would turn out to be that interesting and that a young disciple of the Ling Qi layer would actually get killed, especially by an extremely strong and mysterious young man called Duo Ming. All of us have made an error of judgment. Duo Ming has also broken through to the Ling Qi layer. He's incredibly strong. His strength enables him to move on to the next round. Not only the crowd thought that, but Na Lan Xiong, while looking at Lin Feng's back who was getting down off the stage, had a similar thought. This young man could defeat cultivators of the Qi layer in a single strike with his sword, but he could also defeat cultivators of the Ling Qi layer in one hit. He is terrifyingly strong. Nobody had realized his potential before. At that moment the other battle had also finished and was won by Qiu Lan. She had won against Lin Hong. At that point all those selected to continue to the next round were known. Na Lan Feng, Lin Qian, Wen Jiang, Qiu Lan and Duo Ming. The two who did not belong to a powerful clan had won again. Qiu Lan and Duo Ming. The Gu clan had no participant anymore, and their top two disciples had been beheaded by Lin Feng. The old man announced a short break again. Fourth round, Lin Qian can wait. Na Lan Feng will fight against Wen Jiang and Qiu Lan will fight against Duo Ming. The crowd was really excited. The last battles were finally going to start. Na Lan Feng's strength was obviously incredible. Wen Jiang, however, was even stronger than Na Lan Feng and Lin Qian, as he had already broken through to the second Ling Qi layer. These battles were going to be very exciting. There was also that incredibly strong Duo Ming who had killed 3 people with a single strike. His battle against Qiu Lan was probably going to be the same sort of battle. Now that the strongest disciples had been decided, the battles would now take place on the main stage. The first battle was going to be between Na Lan Feng and Wen Jiang. "Wen Jiang, you are quite strong, but as before you will not fight against me," said Na Lan Feng in an extremely arrogant way, sounding like a royalty talking down to a servant, showing disdain for everything and everyone. "I broke through to the second Ling Qi layer. You are only at the first Ling Qi layer, you should be the one giving up," Wen Jiang said, contradicting her. "What a moron," shouted Na Lan Feng while releasing her spirit. Immediately after, her divine arm spirit had appeared behind her back. The most shocking thing was that her divine arm spirit slightly differed from that of Na Lan Chan, who had been killed by Lin Feng. Her divine arm spirit was gold. It looked like the gold light radiating from the arm couldn't be stopped by anything. "Only a golden divine arm spirit can be regarded as a perfect divine arm spirit," said Na Lan Xiong while smiling. In 100 years, Na Lan Feng was the only one to have a golden divine arm spirit. When her spirit was awakened, she definitely deserves to be called the Princess of Yangzhou City. She has a golden divine arm spirit, and it looks so strong and powerful. The crowd was shivering and was moved by the princess at the same time. Wen Jiang thought that losing was not an option and released his spirit as well. On his back appeared a great river spirit. Great waves were unceasingly flowing with a crashing sound. That was the spirit of the one clan, the Great River Spirit. In this world, nothing can be considered bizarre. Really? Sighed Lin Feng while looking at the spirits released by the fighters. An arm can become a spirit. And on top of that it can be gold. Rivers could also be spirits. The number of different spirits which existed was unimaginable. Nobody could imagine how many there were. Anything could become a spirit in this world. Lin Feng was looking at Lin Qian. If his predictions were right, Na Lan Feng would win that battle and would then wait during the next round, which would mean that after winning against Chou Lan, he would battle against Lin Qian. As Lin Feng had predicted, Na Lan Feng won against Wen Jiang almost effortlessly even though he had reached a higher layer than her. This was because of her overpowering spirit. Since the very beginning, Na Lan Feng had only used one skill, Divine Punch. But in comparison with that of Na Lan Chan, Na Lan Feng's skills were infinitely more powerful. Her force had a earth-shattering power and each strike was extremely heavy. Each time Na Lan Feng carried out an attack, it made Wen Jiang step back a few meters. At some point, he had been shaking so much from receiving the strike that he could not defend, and the following strike had severely injured him, so he could no longer fight. He had no choice but to give up. Na Lan Feng is so strong. She's the Na Lan clan's princess. It's not surprising that she's extraordinary. Nobody can compete with her. Many people were filled with emotion when they saw how strong and beautiful Na Lan Feng was. They had the feeling that she was invincible. They were filled with admiration and worship. Not only was Na Lan Feng extremely beautiful, but she was also extremely talented. Many people wished they had the same innate gifts as Na Lan Feng. They were very excited to see how she would develop, and what other powers she would show in the future. The second battle was about to begin. Lin Feng was going to fight against Chou Lan. The crowd could no longer contain their excitement and many were cheering. Even though the battle was probably not going to be as spectacular as the one they had just watched, it should also be quite intense. Besides, they didn't know how strong Duo Ming really was, and were wondering if he could really defeat Chou Lan. Lin Feng and Chou Lan were looking at each other and Chou Lan had a smile on her face. I do not need to fight any longer in this tournament. I surrender this battle. The crowd was astonished when they heard the word surrender. Chou Lan had played a role in the organization of the annual tournament. She had contributed in selecting who would join, and now that she had to fight Duo Ming, she had given up? Could it be that Duo Ming and Chou Lan have already fought before and that Chou Lan knows that she can't defeat Duo Ming? Wondered the whole crowd, lost in confusion. They were trying to guess what was really going on as they really couldn't clearly understand the situation in front of their eyes. Alright, nothing can be done. Let's move to the next battle, said the old man indifferently. For the last battle, the 3 remaining participants will step onto the main stage. The last one remaining on stage will be the winner. Huh. Lin Feng was stupefied. He had thought that the old man would make him and Lin Qian fight first and that there then would be a final battle. He wouldn't have thought that all of them would be fighting each other at the same time in a free-for-all fight. But as before, Lin Feng went back onto the main stage and walked towards the other participants. Na La Feng and Lin Qian, who had just come up onto the main stage as well. Phew, this decisive battle. Let's try and guess who is going to win. It should be Na Lan Feng. She's extremely powerful and has a golden divine arm spirit. She's almost invincible. Lin Qian and Duo Ming shouldn't be able to compete with her. I don't know what to think. Lin Qian hasn't used all her strength, so it is impossible to judge. She hasn't even released her spirit yet. Do you know even what spirit Lin Qian possesses? I agree with her universal ice and fire spirit. She's incredibly strong. I actually think that the one who has the biggest potential to win is Lin Qian. Everybody was giving their own opinion about who was going to win or lose. All of them thought that either Lin Qian or Na Lan Feng would win. Nobody thought Lin Feng had a chance to win. Even if Lin Feng was now regarded as being extremely strong, the crowd still thought that there were only 2 people who had a chance to win within the 3 remaining participants. 2 amazing yet arrogant female cultivators from Yangzhou City, Na Lan Feng and Lin Qian. The contrast between them and the strange masked young boy was too great for anyone to attach any importance to him. The 3 participants were on the stage, each of them standing in one corner of the stage, but Na Lan Feng was staring at Lin Qian since the beginning. Lin Qian was also continuously staring at Na Lan Feng. They were staring at each other as if they were fighting a one-on-one battle. It seemed like they had forgotten about Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at the two girls and smiled deep in his heart. They both wanted to kill him, but at that moment, they didn't even know his real identity and were completely ignoring him. Na Lan Feng, you will regret what you made me go through on that night. And you, Lin Qian, you made me and my father leave the clan. You wanted to kill me and my dad. The time for revenge is slowly approaching, thought Lin Feng. In that cold and cruel world, Lin Feng particularly appreciated and cherished the tenderness and affection that he received. Any hostility would also be engraved in his memories. In this world, one could only rely on themselves. After a while, Na Lan Feng's attention was finally drawn away from Lin Qian. She had an arrogant smile on her face. You're quite strong. If you wish, you can join my clan, the Na Lan clan. Concerning everything that you just did, well, I could forget everything. Besides, I can also personally help you practice cultivation once in a while. Na Lan Feng had a huge smile on her face. She unconsciously looked utterly arrogant. She didn't do it on purpose, but could not hide the arrogance which had been engraved into her soul. Concerning the thing that had happened a moment ago and that she could forgive, she was obviously talking about the fact that Lin Feng had killed Na Lan Chan. You want to help me practice cultivation? Murmured Lin Feng. The girl, who thought she was the best in the world, wasn't only half arrogant, she was really completely arrogant down to the last fiber of her being, as expected. Indeed, I personally can help you practice cultivation, said Na Lan Feng, who didn't know what Lin Feng really meant. She even thought that Lin Feng felt extremely honored. She was still smiling and said, you have to understand that this is a once-in-a-life opportunity. This usually never happens in the Na Lan clan. You really are lucky. Actually, Na Lan Feng's proposition was really attractive to ordinary people. Many ordinary cultivators would have dreamt of being offered such an opportunity. Besides, she herself was really attractive and her smile was terribly sexy. However, this was not a tournament for normal people, which showed just how arrogant she actually was. That would be a dream if it happened to me. Even if I had that dream, I would be smiling even after waking up. The Princess Na Lan personally. Many people in the crowd envied Lin Feng so much and were looking on with envious eyes. He was really incredibly lucky. Could the audience, which was filled with ordinary people, really be the judge? Did Lin Feng even need Na Lan Feng's help to practice cultivation? It was like she was offering him coal and saying it was a diamond. Should I feel extremely flattered? Asked Lin Feng in a joking and teasing tone. Because of Lin Feng's mask, Na Lan Feng was unable to see his facial expression. However, the tone of his voice had changed in comparison with before. Why wouldn't you feel that way? Asked Na Lan Feng, now feeling indifferent with a smaller smile on her face than before. Lin Feng remained silent for a moment. She was as arrogant and conceited as before. She was the best in the world when it came to arrogance. Ha ha ha. Na Lan Feng, I would have never thought that you were truly so incredibly stupid. I really don't understand what help or advice someone as stupid as you can give me on the path of cultivation. At that moment, laughter sounded from within the crowd. Then a figure shot through the crowd. It flew like a legendary bird and immediately landed on the main stage. This person looked extremely arrogant. It was a young man who looked incredibly majestic and unreachable. His face was very thin. He radiated arrogance from head to toe. Bai Yuan Hao, Na Lan Feng said while looking surprised. She narrowed her eyes as she hadn't expected him to come. Indeed, said the young man while looking at Na Lan Feng. He was looking at her with a smile on his face. Na Lan Feng, in the Imperial City you are an ordinary person, nothing more. I would have never thought that you called yourself a princess in Yangzhou City. You are so arrogant and top of that seem to be so incredibly satisfied with yourself. You're such a cheap maid. Shut the hell up. Na Lan Feng shouted extremely aggressively in an ice-cold tone. Huh? Are you getting angry because I called you a cheap maid? So it must be true that you're convinced that you are a real princess. That young man didn't even give her a glance and continued to grin. Well, you're just a worthless dog as well. Nothing more, said Na Lan Feng in a cold tone, trying to humiliate him. By telling me this, are you admitting the fact that you're a cheap maid? Said the young man while laughing, making Na Lan Feng's go rigid with anger. She didn't look beautiful at all at that moment. Shut up, shouted Na Lan Feng, flying into a rage out of humiliation. When they heard that conversation, the crowd was quite confused. The Yangzhou city's princess, who was so popular and whose reputation was amazing, was being called a cheap maid by a random person? That young man who had just come out was obviously a nobody talking nonsense. How audacious, you actually dared to come to the tournament which is organized by my clan, the Nalan clan, and conduct yourself in such an disrespectful way. You really want to die, said Nalan Xian while staring at that young man furious. Shut up, you scum, said the young man while turning around. He then looked at Nalan Xiong looking furious and said, You are the head of the Nalan clan, nothing more, and you dare boast shamelessly. Let me tell you, if I wish, I can make your entire clan disappear like fire under water. Brr! Nalan Xiong was so furious and enraged that he was going insane. He wouldn't have thought that that man would be so insolent. The crowd was extremely confused and didn't understand anything that had happened. They were wondering who that young man who had just appeared really was. He seemed to be even more arrogant than Nalan Feng or Lin Qian. He even dared to threaten the head of the Nalan clan and insult him. All right. I, Nalan Xiong, would like to see how you intend to make my clan, the Nalan clan, disappear, said Nalan Xiong, who was smiling and no longer looked furious. It was the first time in Yangzhou City that someone dared talk to him that way. That guy was boundlessly wild and arrogant. Father, can you let me, your daughter, solve that problem myself? Nalan Feng had suddenly asked her father that question, which left Nalan Xiong stunned. He was at that moment shaking in fear. Nalan Feng meant that. Bai Yuan Hao, why are you not in the Imperial City, and why did you come to Yangzhou City? I came to ask for the repayment of a debt, said Bai Yuan Hao while smiling. Immediately after, he looked at Lin Feng and said, All right, you come down. Huh. Lin Feng frowned. Bai Yuan Hao was ordering him to come down as if he was Lin Feng's superior. Lin Feng looked at Bai Yuan Hao and didn't move. Bai Yuan Hao frowned and said in an ice-cold tone, Get the hell down now, come down off that stage immediately. Special thanks to Likiliki. He is single-handedly forcing me into slavery? I don't know if I will be able to manage the final chapter, plus I know you guys really love cliffhangers, so, what do you guys think? Special thanks to Likiliki. He is single-handedly forcing me into slavery? I don't know if I will be able to manage the final chapter, plus I know you guys really love cliffhangers. So, what do you guys think? I hope you enjoyed Chapter 7 of the Potential 8. What do you intend to do? Who exactly do you think you are by ordering me to come down like that? Said Lin Feng in a tone filled with disdain. The crowd started to think that everyone was becoming even more crazier than the last person. They were so crazy they suited each other perfectly. Lin Feng wasn't important in these people's eyes, and after all, they still despised him. He wanted to see who despised him and who he could really count on in the end. It would make things much easier for him in the future to know who his real allies and enemies are. What do I intend to do? Said Bai Yuan Hao with an evil smile on his face. He sneered at Lin Feng and said, I am using you. You are my pet dog, nothing more. And you dare ask me what I intend to do? Qiulan, there's nothing great about the people you chose to come. Even though their strength is so, they dare to disobey orders. Qiulan made a wry smile and shook her head. Then she said, Duoming, you cannot fight against my bro. You should never fight against him. Get down now, okay? Bro? The crowd was stupefied. Qiulan suddenly called that wild and arrogant young man bro. I just came here to participate in the annual tournament, that's all. I am under nobody's control, said Lin Feng as cold and detached before adding, whether I am his opponent or not, you are drawing final conclusions too early. I wouldn't have thought that in such a small place as Yangzhou City, there would surprisingly be someone who would dare talk to me, Qiu Yuan Hao, that way. Really audacious to the extreme. Qiu Yuan Hao, your family name is also Qiu? Asked Nalan Xiong, standing and looking extremely surprised. You guessed right, my family name is also Qiu. Qiulan and I were once members of the Qiu clan in Yangzhou City. One night you made our clan, the Qiu clan, disappear, vanish like a fire under water. Qiu Yuan Hao's expression was ice-cold and was looking at Nalan Xiong with fury. That year, every member of the Qiu clan was extremely powerful. We had a great many geniuses. All had extremely strong spirits. It even became the strongest clan of Yangzhou City. Nobody would have ever thought that you, head of the Nalan clan, would be so scared just because the Qiu clan had become so strong. One night, you carried out a surprise attack on the Qiu clan, slaughtering its members and their families. You almost killed everyone and exterminated our bloodline. That debt of blood, you can't have forgotten it, right? The crowd was shaking in fear. Qiu Yuanhao and Qiu Lan had belonged to the Qiu clan in the past. In the crowd, everybody had heard about the Qiu clan, who was extremely powerful and relied on vital golden spirits. The Qiu clan was like an unstoppable comet. Nobody was able to defeat them, and they were extremely famous. But one night, it completely disappeared from Yangzhou City without trace. Some people thought that the entire clan had moved to another place. Some other people thought that they had been killed by an unknown enemy. But the crowd would have never thought that the Qiu clan had been annihilated by the Nalan clan. They had not only slaughtered them but also destroyed the evidence extremely well. Nalan Xiong's heart was pounding. He was filled with rage and fury. Killing intent was making his eyes glow. He had never thought that there were survivors of the Qiu clan. What? You want to silence witnesses by killing them? Said Qiu Yuanhao with an evil smile on his face before adding, Nalan Xiong, I advise you not to get too excited. Your clan, the Nalan clan, will not continue to exist for a long time. Wait for me to come and get my revenge. Wait for me to annihilate your clan. Tomorrow, or maybe the day after tomorrow, the name of your clan will not exist anymore in Yangzhou City. Is that so? I would like to see how you are going to make us, the Nalan clan, disappear, said Nalan Xiong while smiling coldly. Father. At that moment, Nalan Feng said again. She was looking at her father while shaking her head, which made everyone stupefied. It seemed like Qiu Yuanhao's words were not lies. He probably had a huge force behind him to back him up. Otherwise, Nalan Feng would not overcautious like that. She seemed to be scared of them. By Yuanhao, I don't believe that you would ever touch me, said Nalan Feng in a cold tone. I wouldn't dare kill you, but I definitely will dare humiliate you. Today I came to Yangzhou in order to make my clan, the Qiu clan, shine again, and to make people understand how filthy and evil your clan is. Your clan is disgusting. Wait and see, someday I will come back to Yangzhou City. That will be the day when your clan disappears. Qiu Yuan sounded proud of himself and said, All right, you three continue your childish thing. The geniuses of Yangzhou City, haha, how ridiculous, how amusing. If you have enemies, then you should get your revenge. But you shouldn't use me as a stepping stone. Lin Feng said while looking at Qiu Yuanhao, and then added, Once the tournament finishes, your problems will have nothing to do with me. How stupid and foolish. Who do you think you are? If I, Qiu Yuanhao, want to kill you, then I will kill you. An insignificant doggy like you still dares to show off. Since you don't want to close your big mouth, you should stay here forever and make this your grave, said Qiu Yuanhao while smiling evilly. An insignificant dog? You can kill me if you want to? Truly ignorant, said Lin Feng in an evil tone while shaking his head. Qiu Lan and Qiu Yuanhao were filled with an intense and deep hatred. He could understand why and where that hatred came from. Therefore, he had showed respect to them, but Qiu Yuanhao thought he was better than everybody else, and he continued to insult and trying to humiliate Lin Feng. Since it was this way, Lin Feng had no reason to try and understand him and his hatred or show compassion to him. Yangzhou City geniuses? Today I want to show to everyone that you are just a bunch of trash, said Qiu Yuanhao in an impudent way. He then released his spirit immediately. His entire body was covered with a magnificent golden light looking like rays of sunlight. As the top of the arena was not covered, sunlight was refracting on his spirit, which made it look even more majestic. The eyes of the people in the crowd were stunned by this magnificent view. His spirit was even more dazzling than Nalan Feng's golden divine arm spirit. That's a real golden spirit, how awesome, said the crowd amazed. At that moment, Qiu Yuanhao's body looked like a gigantic and invulnerable mountain of gold. Nalan Feng, you proclaimed yourself as genius. You are extremely arrogant because you possess a golden divine arm spirit. Try and have a fight against me. Qiu Yuanhao's long hair was fluttering in the air. His entire body was majestic, coupled with the golden aura which had surrounded his body. The crowd had the feeling that he was invincible. He stamped heavily on the main stage, which made everyone shake. The entire crowd could already see how powerful he looked, but being affected by his attack from such a distance had confirmed how powerful he was. Invincible gold-embodied Qiu Yuanhao's qi was extremely powerful and made an incredibly loud noise. He then punched in the direction of Na Lanfeng, and it looked like that punch was going to be fatal. Invincible Golden Body was a skill which Qiu Yuanhao had accidentally discovered. It was one of the lowest skills of the Xian category. Besides, coupled with his Golden Body spirit, it was even more powerful. The power of the attack was truly amazing. Relying on that combination of spirit and technique, Qiu Yuanhao could kill many cultivators of a similar strength. Divine Punch. When Na Lanfeng saw that Qiu Yuanhao was about to attack, she did the same and started an attack with a loud shout. She didn't think that her divine arm spirit was going to be much weaker than the spirit of her opponent. Boom boom. Power versus power. The entire atmosphere was shaking. Between the two golden punches, a splendid qi appeared and made a whistling sound as it cut through the air. It then turned into a violent hurricane which shot into the atmosphere. Let me crush you. The brilliant golden light on Qiu Yuanhao's body became even more radiant. An incredible strength emerged all around his fist. Na Lanfeng groaned and was knocked back 10 steps. She was now breathing heavily. She was still looking at Qiu Yuanhao. He still had his cold and arrogant smile on his face. He was breathing normally, and there wasn't a single sign of exhaustion at all. The arrogant and prestigious girl of Yangzhou City couldn't even withstand a single attack when facing that opponent. She was already exhausted and about to collapse. That Divine Punch is strong. Divine Punch was an extremely powerful attack, but Qiu Yuanhao's Golden Body Spirit hadn't been defeated yet. It was much stronger and incomparably more powerful. You dare call yourself a genius? That kind of foolishness is only possible in a small city like Yangzhou City. Only in such a miserable place can you play that little game and make a show of authority, that's all. Then he turned and looked at Lin Feng and Lin Qian. It should be the two of you on this stage. I don't mind teaching you a lesson once. I want you to understand that you have an exaggerated opinion about yourselves. I also wanted to show all these people, these good-for-nothings, what kind of people you are and yet dare call yourselves geniuses. Qiu Yuanhao was extremely arrogant and confident in his power. He thought that every single person in Yangzhou City was a piece of trash, a good-for-nothing. However, he had defeated Na Lanfeng a single attack, so he actually had the right to be that presumptuous and arrogant. That young man is really an outstanding talent. He is an authentic genius and extremely powerful. The crowd was looking at Qiu Yuanhao as if he was a deity. They thought that his strength was incredible. The person in whom the crowd had faith miserably lost against Qiu Yuanhao. What kind of person had such power? In the continent of the 9 clouds, everybody only supported strong cultivators. Well, what about you? Are you not making a show of authority in Yangzhou City? At that moment, Lin Feng had said those words as if he had spat them directly into Qiu Yuanhao's face, which stupefied everybody in the crowd. He was really audacious, suddenly daring to humiliate Qiu Yuanhao. Qiu Yuanhao looked indifferent and even had a teasing expression in his eyes. He then said, "Look at that, how brave. Once again you've been playing the role of my little doggy. This time I will have mercy on you, I will not kill you. However, as a punishment for your insolence, I will make your life a living hell and destroy that rotten mouth of yours." Little doggy, rotten mouth. I noticed how rich your vocabulary is. However, I think that you are the one who spends his life being a little doggy, said Lin Feng while grinning and sneering at Qiu Yuanhao. Even though Qiu Yuanhao's spirit was powerful, his strength was equivalent to that normally reached when at the first Ling Qi layer. Otherwise, his punch a moment before wouldn't have just made Na Lanfeng step back of a few steps. "I'll kill you," yelled Qiu Yuanhao. He liked to call other people names, but what he hated the most was being called names by other people. His body started glowing in a golden light, and he threw himself towards Lin Feng. Another chapter here, sponsored by Likiliki. I made it. 8 chapters today. Another chapter here, sponsored by Likiliki. I made it. 8 chapters today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and continue to support the series XOXOX Bedtime for this evil bunny. A golden palm carrying an extremely strong pressure was rushing towards Lin Feng. The crowd could already imagine Lin Feng getting blown away by that palm strike. Na Lanfeng had been defeated by a similar attack. What about Linfeng? Get lost, said Linfeng strictly. The light of his sword was dazzling as it filled the eyes of everyone watching. The resplendent sword light and the golden hand enhanced each other's beauty. As a result of their collision, a loud sound similar to that of a gong spread throughout the atmosphere. Qiu Yuanhao's golden body not only allowed him to carry out formidably strong attacks, but also enabled him to greatly enhance his defense. It seemed like he was impervious to spears and swords. Thus Linfeng's sword was unable to hurt him. That was precisely what Qiu Yuanhao relied on, his defense skills. He relied on them as much as he relied on his arrogance. Ha ha ha, are you kidding me? You little doggy, you're just a piece of trash. You'll never be able to hurt me, said Qiu Yuanhao, sneering at Linfeng. His golden light began to once again fill the air. Linfeng just sensed the colossal oppressing strength against his sword. That strength made his sword shake so much that he almost had it slip from him grasp. Really, replied Linfeng indifferently. If the sword was used quickly, it could never be stopped. It could overrun all fortifications. A sword user could crush and annihilate everything in his path. Nobody could survive a sword that they did not see. There were a myriad of weapon spirits, but the sword spirit was one of the strongest and most powerful weapon spirits which existed. Even though Linfeng didn't have a sword spirit, his knowledge when it came to swords surpassed that of a great majority of cultivators who had a sword spirit. Sword force, Linfeng whispered. His sword was dazzling. Brilliant rays of light started to consume the atmosphere. An extremely strong qi was concentrated in the tip of his sword and emitted a loud explosion. Boom! Linfeng's sword collided with Qiu Yuanhao's spirit again. A sound like tearing paper spread throughout the air. Qiu Yuanhao's facial expression immediately changed. He, who was incredibly strong, had to step back to avoid that powerful sword and could not rely only on his defenses. When Linfeng saw that Qiu Yuanhao had stepped back, he put his sword on his shoulder and said while smiling coldly, "You said that I was unable to hurt you, well then why did you just step back?" When Qiu Yuanhao heard those words, his face twisted in anger and while staring at Linfeng said, "I admit that I underestimated you, but I am stronger than you. You're still a little doggy, no, a little chicken who cannot even withstand a single attack. You talk a lot, but everything that leaves your mouth is crap," Linfeng said, sounding exhausted. If being a genius means opening one's big mouth and stupidly judging other people, then you definitely are a real genius, a true genius, a genius unmatched beneath the heavens. How fearless. Duo Ming has been brave in the face of danger this whole time. He has no fear. When the crowd saw that Linfeng had made Qiu Yuanhao step back, their expression was bright. They already regarded Duo Ming as someone great. They used to think that Linfeng only had a little power, they had underestimated him. But at that moment they really thought that he was stronger than Na Lanfeng or Lin Qian. Na Lanfeng and Lin Qian were also watching Linfeng and started to think very highly of him. They had thought that Linfeng wasn't that strong before, but at that moment, they realized how ignorant they had been. Actually, Duo Ming was the person to be careful of. He was on a higher level than them both. Even though we can't see his face, he's obviously very young and he's a real genius. He must have been gifted ever since his birth. If he could join my clan, the Na Lan clan, that would be a great help, said Na Lanfeng, who really hoped Duo Ming would join her clan. Then she walked towards Linfeng and said, "Duo Ming, I admit that I underestimated you. With such strength like yours, my clan, the Na Lan clan, will really respect you. Please join my clan and support us in the future. Then you will able to meet me every day no matter what. Wouldn't that be great for you? Please join." Na Lanfeng sounded arrogant and self-confident again. She had recovered from her previous emotions. Relying on her natural beauty and feminine charms, she tried to convince Linfeng to meet her every day. Both would gain a lot from such a relationship. Besides, she was really beautiful, so she was convinced that Linfeng would not refuse her suggestion. Get lost. What nobody had expected was that Linfeng had not only rejected Na Lanfeng's proposition but had also brandished his sword in her direction, which made him look extremely ruthless. Na Lanfeng's pupils were dilated. She released her divine arm spirit and started her divine punch and bombarded his sword. But nothing happened. The long sword didn't even move a millimeter. Then, a thunderous roar spread throughout the atmosphere, carrying an insanely violent and explosive qi within. It looked beyond terrifying. Na Lanfeng's expression suddenly changed. She quickly dodged the attack. She was extremely quick. Boom! Lin Feng thrust out his left hand, which was followed by a loud explosive noise. That punch turned into a multitude of fist shadows superposing one another. Each fist shadow was stronger than the last. It looked like he had created a flood of punches. They were moving towards Na Lanfeng at an unimaginable speed. Na Lanfeng groaned. She was blown backwards and looked extremely fragile and weak. She slid backwards to the edge of the main fighting stage. One more step backwards and she would have fallen off. At that moment, the crowd didn't know what was going on anymore. They were too confused. Lin Feng had astonished them too many times. Each time Lin Feng moved, they found him amazing, but each time, they also realized they had been underestimating him. It seemed like his strength was ever increasing. It looked like they were underestimating him over and over again. Even at that moment, Lin Feng had defeated Na Lanfeng quickly and efficiently. They remembered how they had thought that Na Lanfeng and Lin Qian were definitely going to win this fight, and had never put the young man in their eyes. They were thinking that they had been ridiculous and foolish. If Zhou Yuanhao hadn't been there, Lin Feng would have deserved to be designated as their grandfather. The crowd were not the only ones to think that way. Na Lanfeng and Lin Qian, but especially Na Lanfeng, thought that they were the only ones who had a chance and were ignoring Lin Feng when the three of them were on the battle stage getting ready for the final battle. They had almost forgotten that Lin Feng was even there. They had really underestimated him. At that moment, they also realized how ridiculous they had been. They realized by underestimating him, they could have both died beneath his sword. You are so strong. Would you please help me practice and improve my cultivation skills? Said Lin Feng while looking at Na Lanfeng as he was blatantly humiliating her. Lin Feng was filled with indignation and anger because of that arrogant girl's behavior, but what enraged Lin Feng the most was that that girl didn't respect people, and she wanted other people to respect her. Otherwise, why would she send her troops at night to attack the offenders by surprise? Lin Feng couldn't stand the arrogant and haughty girl. Na Lanfeng was utterly ashamed of herself when she remembered what she had said. She had the feeling she was truly foolish. Join your clan, meet you every day. Who do you think you are? You think you are alone at the top of the world. You think others are beneath you. What gives you the right to think that I would ever want to meet you every day? Lin Feng continued to talk and made Na Lanfeng understand how ridiculous she was, and that she had no right to be arrogant. Na Lanfeng had the feeling that her face was burning. She couldn't refute anything that Lin Feng had said. At that moment, Na Lanxiong was looking at them. He was staring at Lin Feng, who was filled with anger, and whose expression was ice cold. He had defeated Na Lanfeng so easily. That Duo Ming really looked like he was going to kill the arrogant Na Lanfeng, the greatest disciple of the Na Lan clan, a real genius. The crowd hadn't been so excited as at that moment. Lin Qian, Na Lanfeng, Duo Ming as well as Zhou Yuanhao, all were geniuses, all were stronger than the other. None of them had a strength which could make the crowd despise them, but some of them were so insanely strong that the crowd's blood was boiling in excitement. For example, when looking at Lin Feng, he gradually was showing more and more strength, he was gradually becoming more and more insane. So far, he hadn't been so furious and enraged as at that moment. The more ruthless he became, the more excited the crowd became. Nobody was even willing to fight against him anymore. He was really hot-blooded and merciless. Oh, you're still there. I have no intention to fight against you to prevent you from taking your revenge, but do you think that trying to humiliate me over and over again and thinking that you are the best person in the world makes you an amazing person? Lin Feng had turned around and was looking at Zhou Yuanhao and then said in an ice-cold tone, You say that Na Lanfeng is extremely arrogant and sets herself high above everyone else, that she can act that way only because she is in a small and miserable town like Yangzhou City. What about you? Are you not acting in the same way? Genius? Calling me a little doggy and a chicken. Now I would like to ask you, what makes you a genius? Lin Feng said that while walking. He released his spirit for the first time. All of them seemed not to have noticed that they had all released their spirit at least once. But Lin Feng had not released his spirit the whole time. In his eyes the entire world became darkness. Lin Feng's eyes became pitch black. He looked truly evil. It looked like he had two black holes instead of eyes. He looked like a demon. Everything around him seemed to slow down. Every movement, every person in their face, every single thing. Lin Feng could see everything around him at the same time, and it was crystal clear as if everything was moving in slow motion. Nothing could escape from Lin Feng's attention. He knew what everyone was doing at any given time. He could also hear his own heart palpitating. He could even sense his own blood circulating in his veins. He could sense every single movement that Qiu Yuanhao was making, including his respiration. Lin Feng was unable to speak at that moment, though, as if he was an omnipotent deity, as if he was in every single moment at the same time, as if he was a gigantic pair of eyes able to observe every single thing in the universe at the same time, but eyes couldn't speak. Through the silver mask that Lin Feng was wearing, Qiu Yuanhao could see Lin Feng's eyes. He had begun to tremble with fear. He had never felt so much fear in his life. He couldn't realize what he was seeing. What was wrong with Lin Feng's eyes? Why did it seem like he was staring into the eyes of death itself? At that moment, Qiu Yuanhao was confused and terrified. He could feel the fear penetrating deep into his bones and was shivering like he was frozen. He must be having a hallucination. There was nobody in front of him. Lin Feng was clearly standing in front of him, but Qiu Yuanhao couldn't feel his presence at all. It was just as if he was closing his eyes and couldn't see people or sense other people's presence near him. It was as if the place where Lin Feng stood was a black hole which absorbed his presence. Boom! 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 At that moment, the atmosphere was extremely silent. Everybody was staring at Lin Feng, as if he was the only person within the universe. Even though Lin Feng's steps made almost no sound at all, each and every one of his steps caused a terrifying sensation in their hearts. It sounded like their hearts were trying to burst from their chests. This was fear, this was terror. It was a primal instinct. Everyone wanted to do only one thing: run. With eyes filled with fury, Lin Feng was drawing closer and closer to the frozen Qiu Yuanhao with every step. Special thanks to Likiliki again for sponsoring my slavery. This is my first release of tonight. Special thanks to Likiliki again for sponsoring my slavery. This is my first release of tonight. Also thanks to Riyad Tilthybleed. He made a very creative comment which I now use for synopsis. Enjoy. XOXOX. At that moment, Lin Feng was shrouded in a mysterious aura of darkness. His steps seemed to be corresponding to some kind of special cosmic rhythm. That cosmic rhythm seemed to follow the same laws as that of elemental forces. The sword could diffuse a strong sword force with each strike. Heaven and earth would also naturally produce a force which filled the world. When Lin Feng released his spirit, he could sense and comprehend things in a way that was shockingly advanced. He could understand the mysteries which confused cultivators who were several realms higher. Millions of thoughts were circulating in his brain at full speed. These thoughts gave Lin Feng strange perceptions and a feeling of understanding a higher realm. Celestial spirit transforms me into something unknown and unbelievably strong, thought Lin Feng, very pleased, but it was impossible to see it on his face. Lin Feng's right hand reached down and began to remove his belt. The entire crowd was looking at Lin Feng's movements and could not believe he had just removed his belt. What was he planning to do? It's a sword. Everybody's eyes seemed even more shocked that his silver belt had become a sword. They had already seen that Lin Feng was carrying a sword on his shoulder, but they hadn't paid attention to what was around his waist. Lin Feng seemed to be holding something which resembled a soft and flexible sword. Lin Feng was getting nearer and nearer to Qiu Yuanhao. At that moment, an extremely strong sword qi was revolving around Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng's body seemed to look like the handle of a sword, and the qi which was emanating from his sword and body had formed a blade-like shape in the air above him. Is that a spirit? The entire crowd had a strange feeling and didn't really understand what was going on. Could it be that Lin Feng had a sword spirit? Otherwise, how could he be surrounded by such an insanely strong sword qi? The crowd seemed to have come to the realization that Lin Feng hadn't released his spirit at all. He hadn't needed to. He could display a strength above that of the geniuses before them, without releasing his spirit. With each step that he took, the sword force was becoming stronger and stronger. Just by looking at the sword, everyone could tell that the killing force contained was growing with each passing moment. Even though Lin Feng was filled with murderous thoughts and his face was shockingly calm, it also seemed like he was slightly happy. The 10,000 things of creation possess a force, It is part of their innermost nature, and the sword itself has a force. Why keep using sword chi when there is unlimited force? Before, Lin Feng would need to release a lot of sword chi to use the sword force, but at this moment he was not releasing his own sword chi, but was using the sword force and taking the chi from the sword into his body. He could freely control the force to his will. He could now borrow force whenever he wanted. Therefore, he could unleash as much sword force in a single strike as he pleased. He was no longer limited by his own chi. His entire body and aura was starting to look like a sword, like an extremely sharp and ruthless sword. Lin Feng, deep in his heart, was growing happier and happier. The sword chi in his body and the atmosphere was also becoming more and more vigorous. However, at the same time, Qiu Yuanhao was growing more and more concerned. A look of fear was covering his face. The whole atmosphere was being consumed by the pressure of the sword force, and it felt like the sword was trying to consume him and bathe in his blood. He could only panic. He could sense that Lin Feng was a threat to his life, and at any moment his life could end. Lin Feng could really tear through his golden body spirit with such a terrifying sword force. I shouldn't wait any longer, I should retreat, thought Qiu Yuanhao. His confidence had been crushed by that enormous sword chi and terrifying sword force. Besides, Lin Feng's force was showing no signs of decreasing. Instead, it was still growing stronger. He was scared to approach Lin Feng because he feared that he wouldn't be able to come out of the encounter with all of his body parts. Qiu Yuanhao would have never thought that he would end up in such a situation facing a nobody in Yangzhou City. He wasn't even famous, he was an unknown. On top of that, his sister had invited him to join the annual tournament, so how could he be so strong? Lin Feng at this moment was looking at him as if he was looking at a street mutt. Qiu Yuanhao decided to start releasing his chi again. He could not accept such humiliation from a nobody. His golden body was surrounded by a radiant golden light, and he began releasing his colossal strength. His entire body was emanating a powerful chi, and he was even using an incredible force. Invincible golden body. In an extremely loud shout, Qiu Yuanhao eventually decided to attack. He coated his fist in his indestructible aura and launched his fist towards Lin Feng. Boom! As his fist crashed through the air, the sound of explosions filled the air as if he was shattering the atmosphere which restrained his fist. Dai Lin Feng said that word in a low voice, and suddenly, an incredibly powerful sword force emerged out of his body and tore the atmosphere apart, then rushed towards Qiu Yuanhao's body. The force of the sword made Qiu Yuanhao's body distort. Sounds of tearing and ripping could be heard from inside his body. It sounded like his body could be torn apart at any moment. The sword force which was unleashed was accompanied by an extremely powerful chi. The sword flashed through the atmosphere, cutting everything in its path, and an extremely dazzling light filled the air. The sword struck against Qiu Yuanhao's chest. Crack! Qiu Yuanhao's body cracked open like an egg as his protective layer shattered into pieces. His spirit was disintegrated. Blood splashed everywhere and Qiu Yuanhao's body was launched backwards. It was now clear that he was weaker than Lin Feng. The strong cultivator who had come from the imperial city, same as those who had come before him, had not been able to withstand a single strike carried out by Lin Feng. At that moment the crowd was astonished, stunned, stupefied, and was staring blankly at Lin Feng. How terrifyingly strong. That was pure and undeniable strength. No one was able to deny the power that he had just unleashed. Whether it was a genius or a powerful disciple mattered not, Lin Feng had only needed a single strike to deal with them. Phew. Duo Ming is the real genius today. He was definitely the hero of the day. Nobody could compete with his strength or defy his wrath. That haughty girl actually thought she was worthy of him, but Duo Ming is someone who is favored by the gods. The crowd was still staring silently at Lin Feng. He definitely had gained a special esteem and respect within their hearts. Now Lan Feng considers herself as above the rest of the world, the strongest, the most beautiful. Surprisingly, she even wants to become a mentor for Duo Ming on the path of cultivation. That brat does not have eyes. Qiu Yuanhao is also extremely arrogant and thinks he is invincible. He humiliated and insulted Duo Ming, called him a little doggy. Now he can't even withstand a single attack when facing Duo Ming. He is actually the little doggy. He actually thought he could be that arrogant in Duo Ming's city, but he was wrong. He better learn his lesson and behave in Yangzhou City. Only Duo Ming is a true genius. He has received a blessing from the heavens and the earth. He is the most talented and the most powerful person in Yangzhou City. Lin Feng couldn't know what the crowd was thinking. He was looking at Qiu Yuanhao lying on the ground. Lin Feng was expressionless. That was the price to pay for humiliating and despising others for no reason. Lin Feng turned around and didn't look at Qiu Yuanhao again. The black holes he was using as eyes then turned towards Lin Qian. On that day, Lin Feng was going to use Lin Qian and wipe away all his past humiliations. It looks like you and me are the last ones left. Let's continue, said Lin Feng, showing no emotions, which frightened Lin Qian. She did not know what he intended to do. Her strength was very similar to that of Na Lanfeng. Qiu Yuanhao had been able to defeat Na Lanfeng with ease. But the strong and powerful Qiu Yuanhao had not been able to block Lin Feng's sword, which gave Lin Qian the impression that she had no chance to defeat Lin Feng at all. Who the hell is that guy? Surprisingly, he is so strong, Lin Qian whispered. On that day, her self-confidence had been crushed. She used to think that she was amazing because she had reached the first Ling Qi layer. She used to think that she could defeat anyone who was before her. She was a true genius and no one else mattered. Her state of mind was the same as that of Na Lanfeng. Then Qiu Yuanhao had appeared from nowhere and made her understand that even though she had reached the first Ling Qi layer, there were many others who were still stronger than her, and much more talented. But at the moment when she had thought that Qiu Yuanhao was incredibly strong, Lin Feng had cut him down with a single sword strike. This had made her feel extremely inferior. I think it's useless to continue after these events, said Lin Qian, sounding cold and detached. Even though her self-confidence had been crushed, she still didn't want to show it. She didn't want to admit that she wanted to surrender. Lin Feng's pitch-black eyes looked like they were smiling. Even at that point, Lin Qian was unwilling to stop acting high and mighty. Moonlight feather agility. Lin Feng's body vanished without trace. Lin Qian, step back, said someone, shouting extremely loudly. Lin Badao was frightened and didn't want Lin Feng to attack Lin Qian. He had been paying attention all along. When he saw Lin Feng's move, he immediately warned Lin Qian. At the same time, his body transformed into a whirlwind, breaking through the air and moving straight towards the fighting stage. Lin Qian was also aware of the danger, and she immediately released her universal ice and fire spirit. Both ice and fire was coming out of her hands, and she threw herself towards Lin Feng, whom had appeared in front of her. Boom! Lin Feng blocked the attack. The ice had melted and the fire was extinguished. Immediately after, his body shot towards Lin Qian. He would show no mercy at all, a single sword strike. Lin Feng thrust his sword at Lin Qian. Let's see if you dare, shouted Lin Badao while trying to intervene. A scorching fire was unleashed from the palm of his hand and moved to block Lin Feng's sword. Boom! The fire was unimaginably powerful and had weakened the power of the sword, which was about to crash into Lin Qian's body, but the force of the sword still struck her and sent her flying towards the edge of the fighting stage. She was alive but gravely injured. How dare you violate the rules of the annual tournament like that? Lin Feng shouted and then added, because you are worthless, you need to make a spectacle of yourself and need the help of the older generation to back you up. What a disgrace. The Lin clan has finally shown its true colors. How shameless. Na Lanxiong remained silent. That whole tournament had deviated too much from what he had planned. Since it was this way, he felt like everything right now was meaningless. Lin Feng had injured his daughter, Na Lanfeng. Could Na Lanxiong have mercy on Lin Feng? How audacious. Who do you think you are, to be that arrogant? Lin Badao saw that Na Lanxiong remained silent. He didn't hesitate at all and tried to slap Lin Feng's silver mask. Lin Feng didn't try to avoid the attack. His silver mask directly fell down onto the ground and his real face appeared. It's you, Lin Badao and Lin Qian said these words at the same time. When they saw Lin Feng's real face, they were stupefied. They felt like a blizzard was spreading through their veins and an icy cold chill ran down their spines. At the same time, all the members of the Lin clan in the crowd were stupefied when they saw Lin Feng's real face. That insanely strong and powerful young man surprisingly is a member of the Lin clan, or actually a former member of the Lin clan who had been expelled for apparently being weak. It's him. No wonder that he would dare attack me. I sent troops but he killed them all, now I am next. Na Lanfeng was extremely surprised. She was shaking from fear as she had sent a large number of people to kill him, but he had killed them all, leaving no survivors. When she remembered what had happened at the Whistle Wind restaurant, Na Lanfeng had a bitter feeling in her heart. What had given her the right to act towards Lin Feng over such petty problems? She was regretting all of her actions to this point. She had created a terrible enemy for herself and her clan. When the crowd saw the expression that the Lin clan members had, they were surprised. They were confused and were wondering who the mysterious person under the mask was. Who was that guy who made the Lin clan members so shocked? Impossible, how did you become this strong? Lin Qian couldn't believe what she had witnessed. All that strength that he had displayed. An insanely strong and powerful young man, he was a genius. She would have never considered that he could have strength to fight her. She used to think he was a piece of trash. The feeling she had at this moment was unbearable. If he was really trash, then what was she? There's no doubt. Your eyes are correct. I am Lin Feng, the one that you all despise so much, also known as the piece of trash within the Lin clan. Lin Feng sounded indifferent. His simple answer made the hearts of the Lin clan members extremely heavy. This young man should have been the glory and pride of the Lin clan. With him by their side, their future would have been glorious. They should have hailed him as a hero, but instead they had ridiculed him and expelled him from the clan. What complete foolishness they all had. They did not deserve such a genius. The crowd was stirring and growing restless. The Lin clan had abandoned Lin Feng. The rumors said it was a piece of trash who almost died against Lin Hong. Everybody in the Lin clan despised him. Could this terrifying young man really have needed help from his father against someone so much weaker than himself? The rumors were beginning to sound more and more untrue. What had happened on the stage was shocking. Nobody would have thought Qiu Yuan Hao would appear. They had discovered a genius, but that genius was the one known as a piece of trash according to rumors from the Lin clan. No wonder that he was wearing that silver mask. Members of the audience slowly started to understand the chain of events that had occurred, and why this mysterious young man had no background. Lin Qian, people as arrogant as you are very rare. You think that you stand at the top of the world looking down on others. But it is only possible for you to be that way within the Lin clan, that's all. Never say that you are a genius, because all you are is a foolish little girl. Lin Badao, you are a weak shell of a man compared to my father. You will never be as strong as him. But you acted in collusion with the honorable elder to overtake the power and make my father abdicate. On top of that, you wanted to expel him from the clan. You believe in Lin Qian's power more than anything, thinking that she will someday be the hope for the clan. But now, everybody can see that Lin Qian cannot compete with me. She's a worthless little girl who can only run her mouth. Don't you feel stupid? Don't you think you are laughable? Are you not ashamed of yourselves? Don't you regret what you did? Of course, I understand that you are not going to admit it even if you do regret what you did. However, today is only the beginning. Today I have only proved how stupid, foolish and shameless you all truly are. Your words, your faces, you are all filthy. Someday I will return with my father, and we will take justice. Suddenly Lin Feng had stopped being silent. Every single sentence he had said had penetrated deeply into the hearts of the Lin clan members. It moved them and shocked them. Lin Feng was right. Every member of the Lin clan had dared despise Lin Hai, and wanted Lin Badao to become the head of the Lin clan. It wasn't because Lin Badao was strong though, because Lin Badao wasn't even in the same league as Lin Hai. All of this was because of Lin Qian and her talent. They all looked at her as if she was a deity. They had thought that Lin Qian had limitless power. They had thought that she could make the Lin clan rise up and that they would all benefit in the future. But they would have never thought that their beloved and cherished Lin Qian could be surpassed by someone else, especially by another genius who had been expelled from the clan. The most bitter thing was that he was the son of the former head of the clan. That was the beginning, nothing more. Lin Feng would become much stronger. He had huge potential and limitless talent. Would Lin Qian ever be able to catch up to him? Why had a genius like him been expelled from the Lin clan? Why had nobody acknowledged him when he defeated Lin Hong? Why had nobody given him the chance to prove them wrong? Why had they continued to think that Lin Qian was their only hope and raised her above him in every possible way? It wasn't until this moment that the Lin clan truly understood the grave mistake that they had made. They had treated a hero, such a rare genius, with nothing but disdain. They had brought the hatred of him and his father down upon themselves. Had any of them truly been thinking of the clan? Regret? Of course, the Lin clan members regretted everything. They knew that nothing could ever turn back time before they had made such mistakes. They had made a big mistake by hurting a genius of Yangzhou City. Even an extremely strong cultivator who had come from the Imperial City wasn't a match for a single strike from Lin Feng. "You animal! Shut the hell up!" shouted Lin Badao furiously because he couldn't bear hearing Lin Feng's words anymore. "Lin Badao, you are a worthless clan member. Using my father's uncle to overtake his power. Your goal was to create confusion within the Lin clan. You never cared about our family ties, about the same blood flowing in our veins. From the bottom of your heart, all you ever wanted was kill my father and me. Lin Badao, you are not even worth being called an animal yourself. You are nothing but a worm. I am ashamed to think that we share the same blood. Even if I am not part of the Lin clan anymore, knowing that we share the same blood will always be a disgrace to me. Even if no one ever finds out we share the same blood. Knowing this fact makes me sick." Every single word Lin Feng had said was like a sharp knife stabbing Lin Badao's heart. Lin Feng was usually a quiet person. He would never spend long time speaking. He wasn't an expert when it came to the expression of his feelings and emotions, but who could ever understand him? He had already lived another life. Lin Badao's heart was pounding furiously. He could never forgive Lin Feng. He had no regret and could only feel the hatred inside himself. "Head of the Nalan clan. Please don't blame me for interfering in this match," said Lin Badao while looking at Nalan Xiong. "These are your clan's internal affairs. I obviously have no right to intervene," replied Nalan Xiong in an indifferent tone. When he saw them, Lin Feng smiled coldly. He had humiliated and injured Nalan Feng. Nalan Xiong already hated him bitterly. But Lin Badao was still scared to be beaten by Nalan Xiong, because he had broken the rules of the tournament. "In my eyes, this annual tournament is a big facade. You only want the Nalan clan members to win. You can't stand losing to anyone else. I don't want to participate in these kind of stupid events again. It's clear that if a genius injures a member of your clan, you will later send people to attack them by surprise. The Nalan clan is a huge joke. Truly shameless." Lin Feng's black eyes looked ice cold. People were still shocked by Lin Feng's aura. There was no one that did not have their eyes fixed on Lin Feng after the power he had shown. "Lin Qian, didn't you want to kill me? So now I will take your life." Lin Feng said that while laughing evilly. He started walking towards Lin Qian. Lin Badao was shaking in anger. He was in front of Lin Qian, obstructing the way. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng demonically. He unsheathed his long sword from his back and moved it in Lin Qian's direction. Thunderous roars spread throughout the atmosphere. "Do you think you even have a chance?" Lin Badao shouted while looking at Lin Feng, who had unsheathed his sword. A strong qi filled the atmosphere and thunderous roars filled the air. Moonlight feather agility. Lin Feng suddenly vanished but didn't move towards Lin Badao and Lin Qian. He rather moved to a more distant place. "Oh no!" Nalan Xiong turned pale with fright. He stood up. He raised his head and saw Lin Feng above Nalan Feng's head as if he was falling from the sky. Lin Feng's target was Nalan Feng. Nalan Feng also found out that she was Lin Feng's target and was filled with shock. She saw his eyes filled with darkness moving closer. She attacked with a divine punch, but Lin Feng could use his soft sword with extreme speed. Nalan Feng's fist shadow vanished and Lin Feng's cold sword was pressed against in Nalan Feng's throat. "How dare you!" shouted Nalan Xiong short before arriving near Lin Feng. "One more step and I will kill her," said Lin Feng in an ice-cold tone. He looked expressionless. Nobody had any doubt when it came to Lin Feng. If Nalan Xiong made one more step, Lin Feng would probably kill Nalan Feng. Nalan Feng was looking at Lin Feng's darkness-filled eyes. She had never been in such a situation. In Lin Feng's black eyes, she was just a worthless little brat. He had taken her as a hostage very easily, as if she truly had no strength. At that moment, Nalan Feng obviously understood that Lin Feng had taken her as a hostage. The crowd was looking at Lin Feng while remaining speechless. That remarkable young man who seemed to be blessed by the god was also extremely reckless and ambitious. Everybody thought he was insane, and he surprisingly dared humiliate every clan again and again. The crowd could only stand there in silence as they watched these events. Maybe when they had seen Lin Feng appear for the first time when he had joined the tournament, they already had the feeling that things were not going to go as planned. Even the events with Qiu Yuanhao were unexpected. Lin Feng, however, had been insulting all of the powerful clans from the moment he first appeared. He had been offending everyone because of something that happened before the tournament. Na Lanfeng had made a mistake before, and it seemed like Lin Feng had already planned to use her to escape. This was a ruthless and insane young man. Only somebody as strong as Lin Feng could be so reckless with his actions. Only someone as insane as Lin Feng could have planned this from the start. His words were mysterious and his actions were insane. He had drawn the attention of the entire crowd. When Lin Badao wanted to take his revenge, Lin Feng had pleasantly surprised the entire crowd with his words, including Na Lanxiong. Lin Badao and Na Lanxiong were helpless in front of Lin Feng, who was holding Na Lanfeng as a hostage. They looked like monkeys who were dancing to his tune. Lin Feng was like a fierce tiger. He had completely captured his prey. Absolute control. Lin Feng was in absolute control. Absolute control. Lin Feng was in absolute control. Lin Feng was using his celestial spirit, and that moment he was able to see everything extremely clearly, as if he was looking down on the world frozen in time. The moment when he had released his celestial spirit, his brain had started operating at an incredible speed, and could solve even the most challenging problems. Everything that was happening around him was instantly processed by his brain, and nothing was escaping his attention. Every single word Lin Feng had said fascinated the crowd and drew their attention. Na Lanxiong and Lin Badao were furious at this turn of events. At the moment when Lin Feng had threatened to kill Lin Qian, he hadn't killed her and instead had taken Na Lanfeng as a hostage. The most fascinating thing was that even though Lin Feng's brain was operating at an incredibly terrifying speed, he remained calm and level-headed. Lin Feng sighed. His celestial spirit had completely changed him, as if he had transformed into something no longer human. His spirit enhanced all of his skills and abilities. Besides, that was also only the first layer of the celestial spirit. There was also the second layer which could be used at any time, his book spirit. Let her go. Na Lanxiong said with a voice filled with killing intent. Let her go? Is that even possible? Said Lin Feng while smiling evilly in his heart. As before, his face was expressionless, which made him look exceptionally ruthless. I can guarantee that if anyone tries to get near me or tries to attack me, I swear to you all that the first one to die will not be me. Lin Feng had said these ruthless words with almost no change in his expression, showing no fear. His words felt like a slap in the face. Na Lanxiong could not help but twist his face in anger. Let's go. Lin Feng's soft sword slightly moved. In a flash, a thread of blood appeared on Na Lanfeng's throat even though the soft sword had only slightly pressed on her throat. Na Lanfeng was terrified when she felt a sharp burst of pain. Lin Feng's pitch-black eyes made her especially terrified. She didn't believe that Lin Feng would let her go easily once they escaped. His eyes looked inhumane and heartless. They were not the eyes of a man but that of a demon. She may truly die at his hands. Na Lanfeng obeyed Lin Feng and started walking towards the exit. Remember my words, said Lin Feng while looking at Lin Badao, who was very close to him at this moment. Lin Feng once again pressed his sword against Na Lanfeng's throat, and another trace of blood appeared. Step back, shouted Na Lanxiong at Lin Badao, who was standing at a strategic point. He could see that Lin Badao was still planning to attack Lin Feng. Na Lanxiong's tone made Lin Badao shiver. He hated Na Lanxiong for standing in his way. He would have never thought that Lin Feng would be so sly and take Na Lanfeng as a hostage. Nobody would dare to confront him, for fear of angering Na Lanxiong. Lin Feng, if I let you off, will you let my daughter go? Asked Na Lanxiong with a stern tone. Are you trying to have me kill her right here and now? Lin Feng's black eyes just stared at Na Lanxiong, showing no emotion. Na Lanxiong felt powerless against facing Lin Feng. He didn't dare do anything because in Lin Feng's eyes was pure darkness, which made him look incredibly evil. He was scared that Lin Feng would be angered and kill Na Lanfeng. They didn't talk much longer. Lin Feng and Na Lanfeng gradually disappeared into the horizon. Even if Na Lanxiong couldn't do anything, He was still praying that nothing tragic would happen to Na Lanfeng. Finally, the crowd saw Lin Feng's silhouette disappear into the distance. They could not help but sigh a breath of relief at seeing him leave. They had felt like this was all a chaotic dream. They were all exhausted at the events which had come to pass. Lin Feng had done so many astonishing things. Everyone had more than enough excitement for one day. Lin Feng. Lin Feng. Lin Feng. In every corner of the city, only one name could be heard. The Na Lan clan, the Gu clan, even Chou Yuan Hao and Chou Lan, all had just one name in their mind and on their tongue, Lin Feng. Lin clan members all seemed to carry a look of regret and deep thought on their faces. Lin Feng was a prodigy who had once belonged to the Lin clan, but when he had revealed his power and become known as a great talent, the glory wasn't attributed to the Lin clan. Actually, it was the opposite. They were going to suffer from harsh criticism. A talented young man who was once a member of the Lin clan had been expelled from the clan for being weak. How could they have been so stupid? No matter what, after the battles of that day, Lin Feng had already gained an incredible reputation within Yangzhou City. Very quickly, people in Yangzhou City would all hear the name Lin Feng. The former piece of trash of the Lin clan had become a genius who had received the blessing of heaven and earth. However, he was stupidly thrown away by the Lin clan. Lin Feng obviously didn't think about that and didn't really care. All he wanted was to leave Yangzhou City. He didn't know when he would go back to Yangzhou City. He only knew that when he would go back there, people would respect him and acknowledge his power. There would be nobody who would dare disrespect or despise him. He wouldn't need to rely on a hostage next time. He would come and go freely as he pleased. 10 days later, Lin Feng had arrived at the Yunhai sect on Qianli Shui. Gazing at the mountains where the precipice of the abyss was situated, he could not help but remember fond memories. The path of cultivation was like a mountain which you continue climb, and then one day you can look down at creation from the top of the world. Even though Lin Feng had shown outstanding talent in Yangzhou City, he wasn't the least bit conceited. He only knew that he had made some progress on the path of cultivation, but the world was big and the path was long. He didn't know exactly how vast the continent of the 9 clouds was or how powerful the people were. There was no reason to be arrogant when he truly knew so little. There were many geniuses in the continent, for example, that man who accompanied Lin Qian who had a legendary rock spirit. He was so young and much stronger than Lin Feng. He already had the power to confront Yunhai sect elder. He dared come to the Yunhai sect and demand respect. When I get back to the pavilion, the first thing I should is choose new techniques of higher difficulty and take the exam to become an elite disciple. Joining the elite disciples will enable me to be a real Yunhai sect disciple, and I'll be able to participate in the internal affairs of the sect. At the moment, I can't do anything as an ordinary disciple. Lin Feng was thinking about what he was going to do, and it was already clear to him what he had to do next. At that moment, he could hear the thunderous hooves of horses in the distance. The ground was shaking. Lin Feng was surprised. He immediately turned around and saw a cloud of dust rise into the air. Armored horses were galloping at full speed. Qi Shui. Lin Feng was stupefied. Those armored horses were the color of blood. Everyone knew of these horses. It was an extremely valuable horse. It was 3 times faster than his Qianli Shui, and it was extremely expensive. It was said that a Qi Shui cost 1,000 gold coins. It was also said that some special troops had Qi Shui horses. These troops would most likely be battle-hardened soldiers. But what were these troops doing in a territory which was under the domination of the Yunhai sect? The precious armored horses were approaching at full speed. The people riding them were all soldiers who looked extremely well trained. They were all ferocious and looked extremely dangerous. These people can go wherever they want, whenever they want. They are not like the self-proclaimed masters and geniuses of Yangzhou City, thought Lin Feng while slightly trembling at the sight of them. These people were extremely strong, deadly warriors. They were real masters to the extent that the weakest ones of the group would have at least reached the 9th Qi layer, but the great majority would have broken into the Ling Qi layer long ago. They are really elite troops. The smell of blood fills the air even miles away. There were about 30 of them, and when they got close to Lin Feng they suddenly slowed down. They raised their heads and looked at the mountain where the Yunhai sect was located. This was their destination. Lin Feng had a strange feeling and his expression changed. He could see a figure which looked familiar. When his eyes focuses he could recognize the person. It's her. On one of these Qishui, there was a girl wearing a red armor. She looked grandiose and heroic. Besides, she was extremely beautiful. Lin Feng would never forget her face. Lin Feng thought while remaining vigilant. He hadn't thought he would meet her there. She was obviously with this group of deadly warriors. That incredibly beautiful girl was a respected and illustrious disciple of the Yunhai sect. Lu Fei. Is that you? Said Lu Fei coldly. She looked angry while looking at Lin Feng. He had dared to disrespect her before. She hadn't taken her revenge yet, but had not forgotten about it. Lin Feng was cursing in his mind. The group that was with her, they were all much stronger than the group he killed in Yangzhou City. They looked like battle-hardened warriors. If they wanted to fight, Lin Feng would be unable to compete with them. That group was so much stronger than him. He was in a desperate situation as they were both faster and stronger than him. He did not want to fight. Fei Fei, you have a problem with that guy, said a young man next to Lu Fei while looking at Lin Feng. Because Lu Fei looked angry, that guy had also started to show anger. No problem, he's one of my fellow disciples of the Yunhai sect. We recognized each other. That was unexpected. Lu Fei had shook her head and said that indifferently. Then she didn't look at him again and continued. Shall we go inside? Said Lu Fei, and then they left while heading towards the Yunhai sect. The young man next to Lu Fei glanced at Lin Feng with slight killing intent in his eyes. Lin Feng frowned. He didn't understand what was going on. As far as he could remember, Lu Fei was rude and cruel. Why would she let him go? I will probably release the remaining 2 chapters today. Forget it. Lin Feng didn't want to think too much about it. It looked like her status was much higher amongst those soldiers than he had thought. Their power was above his right now. I am not extremely strong and I do not have any troops to support me, thought Lin Feng while looking at the group from behind. Lin Feng was determined to do his best once. He got back to the Yunhai sect and joined the elite disciples. Lin Feng rode his horse towards the mountain. 2 guards were standing there. Their heads dropped to the ground and they did not look at him as he passed. These were the same guards he had met the first time. They had now learnt their lesson and had been humbled. As before, the Yunhai sect's atmosphere was filled with the feeling of power borrowed from heaven and earth. It was very inspiring and motivated Lin Feng even more to increase his strength. Especially since every year, there was the exam to become an elite disciple. The strongest ordinary disciples could join and possibly enter the elite disciples, which meant they could become real Yunhai sect disciples. Besides, it was also said that the top elite disciples could directly sit an exam, and if they passed they would be able to join the core disciples of the Yunhai sect, which made them the foundation of the sect's power. The Yunhai sect had a formidable influence in the Shuiyu country. While they were not the strongest sect, they were still could not be easily trifled with. Those core disciples were considered the pride and glory of the sect. Even in cities outside of their territory, a core disciple of the Yunhai sect would be treated with respect and wherever he went. They were supported by the sect itself. It was also the case within clans. For example, in the Lin clan, the Honorable Elder or Lin Ba Dao also regarded core disciples of a sect with respect. In the Lin clan, they wanted Lin Ba Dao to be the head of the clan because they had hoped that Lin Qian could become a core disciple of the Haoyu sect. This would bring them great honor and greatly rise their status within the country. If Lin Qian progressed, she could even become an elder in the Haoyu sect, which would make the Lin clan extremely influential. Unfortunately, Lin Feng, who everyone was sure would become an outstanding figure in the future, wasn't a member of the Lin clan anymore, and there was still regret remaining over the events. When he arrived in the Yunhai sect, Lin Feng first decided to wash the dirt from his body as he had traveled for 10 days. He then put on a clean set of Yunhai sect disciple robes. It was now time for him to head to the Xingqian pavilion. He had now broken through to the Lingqi layer. He needed a more advanced agility technique and a higher level martial skill. Only then, he would be to fully unleash his power during a battle. Protector Bei. Lin Feng saw the old man who had the same expression as he always had at the entrance of the Xingqian pavilion. He looked like he was staring blankly into the horizon. But Lin Feng was extremely happy to know that old man was a protector of the sect, and when needed he would become extremely energetic and powerful. Lin Feng knew that the old man sitting in front of the Xingqian pavilion could look sluggish, but that it was only one aspect of his personality. However, if Lin Feng hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would hardly believe that the old man could actually be so powerful. Protector Bei's expression suddenly changed. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng with sparkling eyes. He then smiled, which was extremely rare, and said, "Oh, you have finally come back." "Yes, I came to find a new agility technique to practice," said Lin Feng while smiling and nodding. "Go to the first floor. Take your time," replied Protector Bei. "Thank you, Protector Bei. Thank you for your help and sorry to bother you." Lin Feng's goal was to go to the first floor and gain advanced skills. According to the rules of the Yunhai sect, only those who had reached the Ling Qi layer or those who were elite disciples could go to the first floor. The disciples who had reached the Ling Qi layer but not yet joined the elite disciples would have a limited time when selecting skills. They could not take their time. They would also not have access to the second floor without becoming an elite disciple. There was an oil lamp which was lit when they entered the room, and when that oil lamp went out, they would have to leave. During that short time frame, they had to find suitable agility techniques and martial skills for themselves. The time these oil lamps stayed on was normally not enough time to find suitable agility techniques and martial skills. There were a myriad of martial skills and agility techniques in the Xingqian pavilion. It was very hard to find something suitable for oneself in a limited time, as there was just such a large number. But rules are rules. Nobody dared violate the rules of the sect. Many Yunhai sect disciples wanted to become elite disciples to be able to fully access the skills and agility techniques on this floor and the second floor of the Xingqian pavilion. That way, they would be able to greatly improve their abilities and find the best techniques for their fighting styles. No need to thank me or be sorry for bothering me. Just don't go to the second floor. You can stay as long as you wish on the ground floor and first floor," said the old man indifferently. Lin Feng was astonished, stupefied, stunned. Right after, he had a huge smile on his face. Lin Feng definitely was very lucky to have the protector watching over him. "Thank you very much, thank you, esteemed protector." Lin Feng became a bit more familiar at that moment when talking to the old man. He then entered the Xingqian pavilion, and immediately after moved towards the stairs leading to the first floor. "Little fellow, I'm just worried that your current level of cultivation wouldn't match those skills and techniques on the higher floors. Otherwise I would have told you to go to the third floor," thought Protector Bei while looking at Lin Feng's silhouette and then shaking his head and smiling. He then whispered, "The precipice of Zhongguo drums. You have changed the history of the Yunhai sect. You will always be able to enter my humble Xingqian pavilion as you please." Protector Bei had a great impression of Lin Feng, but the other disciples of the Yunhai sect didn't think that way. When they saw Lin Feng, who was wearing the robes of the ordinary disciples and immediately went up to the first floor of the Xingqian pavilion, many people were stupefied. "Who's that guy? How can he go past the ground floor of the pavilion? I don't know, but he's clearly an ordinary disciple. And he is not one of the disciple known for breaking into the Ling Qi layer." Many people were envious and jealous. Not only could higher-level agility techniques enable cultivators to greatly increase their speed and benefit cultivation, but it also enabled them to greatly increase their overall fighting strength. It enabled them to use movements of a higher difficulty. In a battle, it could enable them to have a clear advantage in speed over their opponent. Who wouldn't want that? All the agility techniques and martial skills were divided into different levels: sky level, earth level, Xian level, yellow level. These skills and agility techniques were spread over 4 levels in the Xingqian pavilion. On the ground floor of the pavilion were yellow-level skills and agility techniques. On the first floor were skills and agility techniques of the Xian level and were extremely powerful. The first floor of the Xingqian pavilion was much more quiet than the ground floor. There were very few people on the first floor. They were all quietly looking for amazing skills and techniques suitable for themselves. At that moment, many people saw Lin Feng go upstairs and looked at him with disdain. There are less martial skills and agility techniques than on the ground floor, Lin Feng thought while looking at all the skills on the first floor. No matter what, these skills and agility techniques were extremely valuable. They were obviously very hard to find, therefore there were less skills on the first floor than on the ground floor. "Let's find an agility technique," thought Lin Feng while looking at all the books, and then immediately started to read them and analyze the skills. Purity technique Xian level, absorbs the energy of the power of heaven and earth to purify the body, regulates body functions and provides greater control over the body. Practice to the highest level and your body will be faster, stronger and controlled with ease. Please note that this skill is suitable for any spirit. It cannot be practiced very quickly as the muscles and vessels must first become used to the change within the body. Improving too quickly would have the opposite effects, and the body would become exhausted and possibly damaged. That was one of the techniques. There was a small note written on that book enabling those of the younger generations to understand it in more detail. I guess I will take this one, said Lin Feng in a low voice. As if he hadn't seen the warning written by hand in the book, Lin Feng immediately chose that technique. Lin Feng didn't even look at the other techniques. He knew what he was doing. Everything about that purity agility technique looked useless, but Lin Feng thought it was great. Let's find some martial skills now, thought Lin Feng while moving towards to the skill shelves. Dead forest. Scorching apocalypse. Deadly frost. Lin Feng was looking at all these skills but found none of them satisfying. 8 strikes of desolation. Xian level. 8 extremely powerful strikes which cover the heavens and are almost impossible to dodge. This skill drew Lin Feng's attention. I will also take this one. Lin Feng took that book but didn't leave. He needed another martial skill. It had been too long since he had practiced any new martial skills. So he needed to increase his battle power quickly. After a while, Lin Feng found a sword skill which was extremely powerful and of the Xian level, but it required a sword spirit to perfectly comprehend. It also required a perfect understanding of sword force. If someone did not understand the world and the elemental forces within, it would be impossible to comprehend this skill. It was called Sword of Nirvana. Many disciples had avoided this skill as the conditions to learn it were incredibly harsh. They would not only need to understand sword force, but the world around them and other elemental forces. They would need a great deal of comprehension. Lucky, I have found another. Lin Feng was excited. It seemed like the Sword of Nirvana had been prepared especially for him, requiring understanding of sword force and also requiring a perfect understanding of the world and the forces contained within. He could gain a perfect understanding of the world and forces within by using his spirit. It was a perfect skill for him. This skill was made for him. The requirement of having a sword spirit in order to learn the skill was a joke. Was someone who had a sword spirit more knowledgeable about swords than Lin Feng? Let me have a look at that skill book, suddenly said a voice coming from the left. Let me have a look at that skill book, suddenly said a voice coming from the left. Lin Feng turned around and saw 2 young disciples. There was a young man who looked extremely evil while staring at the other disciple. Besides, his manner of speaking sounded like he was giving the other disciple an order. That other young disciple was called Chen Chen. Lin Feng had already seen him before. He was an ordinary disciple just like Lin Feng. However, he was much more famous than Lin Feng. This skill is mine, said Chen Chen while coldly staring at the evil-looking disciple. It wasn't rare to see elite disciples despise ordinary disciples, and this was clearly a case of an elite disciple trying to bully Chen Chen. How insolent for an ordinary disciple to dare refuse my request, shouted the young man furiously while releasing an extremely strong chi from his body. PFFF Li Lin, don't think that I don't know who you are. You are one of the weakest elite disciples. You only dare show off in front of us ordinary disciples. This year at the upcoming elite disciple exam, I Chan Chan will remove that smug head from your body. I will make your head roll from the fighting stage into the dirt where you belong, said Chan Chan while emanating killing intent. Li Lin, you are an ordinary little boy, that's all you are. Haha, you're a joke. All those who were on the second floor of the Xingchan pavilion were looking at them and laughing. Chan Chan was right. Li Lin was an elite disciple, but he was extremely weak in comparison with the other disciples of the sect. In order not to feel inferior in front of other people, he regularly went and bullied ordinary disciples, trying to use his authority and power to gain a feeling of superiority. He hadn't thought that today he would meet this kind of stubborn ordinary disciple who would actually refuse and insult him. Chen Shan was one of the top-ranking ordinary disciples within the sect. He had a flame spirit. All of his fire-based skills were extremely powerful, and he could gain insights into fire-based techniques much quicker than other disciples. Nobody could compete with him. He was extremely strong. His main objective was to participate in the elite disciple exam of the Yunhai sect and become an elite disciple where he could gain extra resources for cultivation. Obviously, when Li Lin heard what Chen Chen said, he became furious. He had already heard Chen Chen's name and knew exactly how powerful he was. It really was his bad luck that he chose to bully the wrong disciple. There's misunderstanding. Alright, I'm not looking at that skill, said Li Lin, whose facial expression had completely changed. He then retreated away from Chen Chen. Laughter could be heard amongst all of the disciples who were present on the second floor. They clearly thought that Li Lin was a good-for-nothing elite disciple. He had just been terrified by an ordinary disciple. To have an elite disciple back down from an ordinary disciple was a humiliation in itself. What are you laughing at? Laugh again and I will cripple your cultivation. Li Lin regretted his previous actions because he had humiliated himself in the end. He had the feeling that everyone was laughing at him. He needed to find someone so he could have relief from his fury. So his threat was directed towards Lin Feng. He couldn't afford to provoke Chen Chen more than he already had, but he did have the abilities required to provoke other ordinary disciple. Lin Feng was about to leave the pavilion. He was stupefied at the threat he had received. He did not even laugh and had just continued with what he was originally there for. Did he laugh without realizing? In fact, from the beginning to the end, he had remained expressionless. He had been annoyed by the confrontation that was happening but had remained expressionless. That guy didn't dare provoke the others. Did that give him the right to treat Lin Feng as a punching bag? Obviously. Fear the strong and bully the weak, thought Lin Feng with disdain. He was scared of Chen Chen and couldn't continue to bully him, so he had come to bully Lin Feng. But Lin Feng wasn't in the mood to deal with this special kind of childishness. He had chosen his agility technique and martial skills and was satisfied with them. It wasn't necessary for him to stay in the pavilion anymore, so he decided to go downstairs. Lin Feng started walking in the direction of the exit. Stop! You worthless ordinary disciple! How dare you ignore me? Said Li Lin, looking cruel. He had now run in front of Lin Feng to prevent him from leaving. Lin Feng smiled coldly. That guy obviously just wanted to show off in front of the others as he had just lost face. Worthless ordinary disciple? It looks like you're the one who just got humiliated by an ordinary disciple. Lin Feng had said that in a joking tone. It clearly showed that Li Lin really had no sense of shame. You want to die. Indeed, you're right, said Lin Feng coldly before adding. Li Lin, is that your name? I don't have time to waste on you. Let's meet at the Stormy Gorge in the life and death arena before the elite disciple exam. When Lin Feng said these words, everybody around laughed again. Lin Feng was surprisingly challenging Li Lin as well, but that time with their life at stake. Could Li Lin reject the challenge after being humiliated to such an extent? Interesting, murmured some of the disciples watching from the sidelines. Li Lin looked perplexed. He didn't know what to think about what had just happened. Lin Feng had surprisingly challenged him to a fight to the death, knowing full well that elite disciples could kill ordinary disciples in the gorge. Would he be strong enough? Alright, I'll wait for you there, Li Lin said. Li Lin was caught between a rock and a hard place. Chen Chen knew that too. If he had been scared of an ordinary disciple again, he would have had to hide himself forever from all other disciples in the sect. He couldn't afford to lose face again. Li Lin turned around and immediately left. Lin Feng smiled inside. He didn't look at his opponent. If he wasn't able to defeat the weakest elite disciple of the sect, it would mean he hasn't made any progress and has actually stepped backwards on the path of cultivation. He had already battled an elite disciple when he was only at the 8th Qi layer. Hee, what's your name? To be able to come to this floor, it means that you've already broken through to the Ling Qi layer. How come I've never seen you before? Chen Chen asked. Chen Chen was ranked first from all the ordinary disciples. He knew all of the strongest ordinary disciples by name and had measured their strength against his own. He also knew who had broken through to the Ling Qi layer within the sect and how many ordinary disciples had broken through. He was getting prepared to join the elite disciple exam of the Yunhai sect and hoped to become an elite disciple. He made sure to know about everyone who he would be competing against. But Chen Chen had never seen Lin Feng. Lin Feng, I'm not popular, so it's normal that you've never seen me. replied Lin Feng while smiling in a friendly way. Lin Feng, you mean the rumored piece of trash? Chen Chun was stunned. He had never seen him, but he had already heard Lin Feng's name many times. Haha, it seems like one shouldn't believe rumors. How could a piece of trash have broken through to the Ling Qi layer? Said Chen Chun while smiling and shaking his head. Then he added, but even though we are both fellow ordinary disciples, there is still a big gap between you and me. Actually, there's a gigantic gap between you and me. There is nothing comparable. Soon I will become an elite disciple. We are not the same. Lin Feng was a bit surprised. Lin Feng understood what Chen Chun meant. He was referring to the fact that Lin Feng had said to Li Lin that he had been humiliated by another ordinary disciple. In Chen Chun's eyes, Lin Feng's sentence meant that he was saying that they were on the same level. Chen Chun thought that they had nothing in common. He was of course the strongest and Lin Feng was not strong enough to be his equal. It seems like you are very self-confident, replied Lin Feng, not losing his temper and still smiling in a friendly way. Indeed, at least when I am amongst ordinary disciples. I am the number 1 ranked ordinary disciple, replied Chen Chun. Alright, I see. It is said that ordinary disciples need an oil lamp when they are on the first floor, and then when it goes off, they must leave. You are indeed very strong, but do you dare exceed that amount of time? Said Lin Feng while laughing. You don't need to flatter me. Indeed, all of the ordinary disciples need that oil lamp on the first floor. However, I am an exception. Because of my strength, I am not bound by the rules. Who would dare say otherwise? Said Chen Chun, mocking that the rules were only meant for the weak. Is that so? Lin Feng was smiling and seemed to be very interested. Well, actually, I also can stay as long as I wish on the first floor, but I try to follow the sect rules. You are the first ranked ordinary disciple, you are so strong. It's no problem for me to stay here as long as I wish, so of course it would be even less of a problem for you, right? Are you joking? You plan to stay longer than the time allocated by the oil lamp? Said Chen Chun with a cold smile filled with disdain. Can you not see with your own eyes? Said Lin Feng with a meaningful smile on his face. He then stopped paying attention to Chen Chun. He then started looking at another skill. He didn't intend to practice it, but looking and learning was a wise thing to do. That guy must be crazy. Continuing to stay on the floor. All the elite disciples on the first floor looked at him with interest. They all started to pay attention to the scene that appeared before them. They wanted to see how long he was going to stay. Humph. Chen Chun groaned. Lin Feng had arrived before him, so he wasn't in a hurry. Lin Feng's oil lamp would burn out before his and the lie would be exposed. The time for half a lamp to burn had already passed. Chen Chun was looking at a skill. He was frowning, he didn't have much time left on his lamp. He looked at Lin Feng and saw that, as before, he was leaning against the bookshelf looking sluggish and still looking at a skill book. He looked like he was absolutely unaware of the time that was passing. He didn't even pay attention to it. How long can you keep playing your little game? Chen Chun wasn't even in the mood to look at skills anymore. He was soon going to be an elite disciple anyway. He would be able to spend as much as he wished on the first floor and could look at as many skills as he wanted. He was watching Lin Feng and waiting for him to make a fool of himself. But Chen Chun was disappointed. Some time passed again and Lin Feng didn't seem to be reacting at all. It seemed like he had completely lost the notion of time. He just continued to read the skills leisurely. Are you not leaving yet? Asked Chen Chun, unable to remain calm. He had almost no time left on his oil lamp. If he didn't leave, he would be severely punished by the sect for breaking the rules. I'm not worried. Why are you worried? You are the top-ranked ordinary disciple of the Yunhai sect. You are a genius. Lin Feng said in an indifferent tone, but everybody understood that he was making fun of Chen Chun. Chen Chun suddenly became furious and said, You want to die? I'm not staying here with you. When you come out, I hope you can explain everything to me. After threatening Lin Feng, Chen Chun turned around and left the Xingqiang pavilion. Top-ranked ordinary disciple? He is just a fool, nothing more. Thought Lin Feng while sneering at him, which made Chen Chun, who was looking at him, even more furious, and killing intent had appeared in his eyes.